Beep, beep, beep. The security reader scanned Maya's badge 3 times and blinked red, as if her presence alone were a malfunction. The white temp behind her breezed through with a bright green chirp and a high five from the guard. "Hold still, sweetheart," the guard said to Maya without looking up, thumb already smudging the screen that refused her. The word sweetheart dropped like a gum wrapper on marble. "I am holding," Maya said. She made the sentence even and flat. "The way you press a wrinkle that doesn't belong to the fabric you're wearing. New system." The temp piped helpfully, hip already through the gate. "It hates old badges." Maya's wasn't old, it was simply hers. The guard finally glanced up, saw what he'd been feeling around, and switched from bored to officious. "Name, Maya Williams. Housekeeping." He typed as if every letter of her name charged him rent. The red light thought it over, decided to be merciful, and flashed green. The turnstile clicked. Maya stepped through. "Try not to tailgate next time," the guard said, which would have been technical advice if he hadn't already let the temp walk through while texting. In the service hall, late winter light lay in pale rectangles across the slate floor. Fresh polished smell. The house had a way of announcing its mood before anyone spoke today. It was lacquered right up to the edge of mean. Maya tucked her phone into her apron, smoothed her uniform, and kept moving. The kitchen door swung, releasing steam and a basil-scented cough. George, head butler in weathered black, conducted a quiet ballet at the stove. He didn't look up when she came in. He didn't need to. George could sense morale the way a sailor feels storm pressure. He slid a mug toward her without commentary. "Staff coffee, not guest roast, but hot enough to be mercy." "You look like somebody argued with a vending machine and lost," he said. "Gate scanner," Maya said, fingers around the mug. "Red, red, green." He nodded. "New system. Old trick. You okay?" "I'm here. That's the lie decent people tell when the day starts early." He wiped a clean towel with a cleaner towel, a Georgism, and set it by her elbow. "Sop deep breath. Steady hands. Watch your corners." A notification pulsed on her phone before she could swallow the coffee. Unknown number. Hospital exchange prefix. She swiped. A nurse's voice. "Kind and brisk, Miss Williams. Your daughter had a small seizure at 510. She stabilized with meds. Fever is trending down. She asked if you were working." Maya's throat closed around a yes that tasted like guilt. "Tell her I'm counting lightning," she said. "Tell her I'll call at 9. Do your work." The nurse said like a benediction, "We'll do ours." The line went quiet. Maya locked the screen and pressed the phone to the stainless counter. For 1 second, cool steel, hot pulse, and pulled herself back to standing. George had stepped half a pace closer without crowding her. "You need 20 minutes. "No. If I stop now, I'll shatter." "Then you keep moving," he said. "We'll sweep the pieces later." The intercom popped with the head housekeeper's voice. "All staff, quick huddle in the north corridor." George rolled his eyes up toward the ceiling, as if asking old gods for patience. And now, a sermon. They filed into the corridor where the walls wore wainscoting like armor. A laminated memo waited on a corkboard, clipped under a heading stamped PR and optics. The head housekeeper, a thin woman who smiled only when company paid for it, tapped the sheet with a stick pin. "Gala week," she announced, "so traffic control matters. 6 to 10 p.m. We limit dark uniform staff in the main hall. Front of house wants neutral tones for photos." Maya heard the words and their shadow words. She didn't look left or right, didn't see the way eyes slid in a chorus of practiced ignorance. Someone coughed. Someone asked a question about tray path. The phrase, "neutral tones," hung in the air like a stink no window could cure. "That's all," the head housekeeper said, and the cluster dissolved with the efficiency of guilt. In the kitchen, The tempo picked up. Deliveries thudded onto steel tables. The florist's plastic buckets breathed cold around white lilies. A sous chef cursed a dull knife. Maya set about polishing crystal that didn't need it. Turn, rinse, place. The motion steadied her nerves the way a song steadies breath. She did not look at her phone. Perfume arrived before its owner. The expensive bite of French lavender laid down like a border. Evelyn Reeves appeared in the doorway, wrapped in silk the color of frost. Pearls stacked at her throat like a sentence. Her lipstick was the shade rich women wear, to remind you they can stain whatever they like. She didn't acknowledge George. She didn't acknowledge the human fact of anyone. She addressed the room the way a queen addresses consequences. "Where is the new girl?" she asked, though Maya had been here for months. George's voice shifted into house voice, neither deferent nor familiar, just frictionless. "Miss Williams is here, madam." Evelyn's eyes found Maya, slid up and down without resting, and stopped on the clean towel by her elbow. Then on Maya's hands, brown, steady, damp. "Out," Evelyn said. Maya set the glass down. "Yes, ma'am." "And leave the mug," Evelyn added, as if caffeine were moral weakness. Maya walked into the service hall. The hum there had a different thread, whispering in two languages and silence in one. She climbed the back stair meant for the invisible. The family portrait at the landing watched with lacquered eyes. In the frame, Evelyn's smile was 10 years younger and believable. Douglas's hand rested on her shoulder with the relaxed weight of a man not yet tired of being photographed. On the second floor, Maya paused at the landing window and watched a black Escalade idle at the gate, while a delivery driver turned in a too-tight arc. The hedge along the drive had been trimmed so straight you could sharpen a blade on it. She ran her thumbnail along the sash and thought of IV line, tubing, the way plastic can mean life if the drip is right. There was a library at the end of the hall, a room breasts with dark wood and self-importance. She found Douglas there, still in shirt sleeves, and the kind of fatigue that has forgotten how to disguise itself. The divorce papers lay under a brass paperweight, shaped like a ship's wheel, irony or faith or both. He didn't see her until the floor complained. A polite cough of a plank. He looked up. "I told you to take the morning off," he said. "Not unkind, not anything. Really. Do I call the agency?" Maya asked. "To replace me." He regarded her a second longer than comfort permits. "You struck my wife." Maya didn't lower her chin. She raised her hand first. "And before you ask, no, that doesn't make it right." He rubbed his jaw. Thumb, worrying a day-old shave. "No, it doesn't. I wasn't born to be a punching bag," she said. She didn't know she was going to say it until it was out and lying between them like a tool no one had asked for but might need. He looked past her toward the window, where the lawn threw back a pale winter glare. "Do you know how many staff Evelyn has accused in the last 2 years?" Maya didn't answer. 7, he said. "Thefts that never happened. Affairs she invented to have company in a hell she refuses to leave." He tapped the wheel. "I paid key at settlements. Rumors are loud." Maya's hand closed around the towel in her pocket. "Then you know who she is." "I know who grief made her," he said, "and who cowardice made me." They stood in a silence that had weight, like the pause before a monitor decides whether to alarm or return to rhythm. He nodded at the corridor. "Give me until evening." Maya inclined her head. "Yes, sire." Back in the staff corridor, 2 housekeepers came down the hall, carrying folded linens like shields. Their eyes flicked to Maya's face, and then to her hand, searching for a mark, a confession, a reason to believe or keep distance. One of them muttered, "God help you," not unkindly, and they passed. Maya ducked into the staff room metal lockers. A bench, the calendar with a saint nobody believed in, sat on the edge of the narrow cot, and called the hospital. The nurse, the same kind voice from earlier, gave her numbers and hope. She's resting, the nurse said. She drew a sun with 8 rays. Lucky number, Maya said, touching the pink handkerchief folded in her apron, her mother's initials stitched there in careful loops. M.W. She buried the phone and went back to work. By noon, the house had put on its social face. A florist army spread lilies across the foyer table, like an argument for purity. The head housekeeper drifted through rooms with her checklist, the way a tax assessor counts souls. George polished silver until he could see the future in it and decided to keep doing the present. Evelyn reappeared, powdered and precise, a small leather notebook in her hand. Maya had seen it before, the ledger where words went when there wasn't a face brave enough to receive them. Staff meeting. Evelyn announced to no one and everyone. 6 o'clock. George came to stand a shoulder behind Maya, not protective, not distant, just present the way a chair is present when you're the only one standing. Evelyn opened the notebook. Insubordination. She read, voice smooth as a scalpel. Striking an employer. Inappropriate proximity to Mr. Reeves. Maya heard the last charge and swallowed the dry laugh it invited. Yesterday she had straightened Douglas's collar because the seam was off, and this house worshipped symmetry. In a certain ledger, a straight tie is a scandal. Do you deny it? Evelyn asked. I deny the last part. Maya said. I straightened a seam. You see, Evelyn smiled without warmth. Mockery. Douglas came in then, silent as a verdict coming down. He didn't sit. He didn't take the notebook. He just looked tired in a way that made kindness feel like a luxury the room had decided not to stock. Speak, he told Maya. She hadn't rehearsed a speech. Words came anyway, clean and unadorned. I came here to work, she said. To pay for my daughter's treatments, I have tried to disappear. Some cruelty drags you back. She looked at Evelyn's notebook, at the white lilies, at a house pretending this was ritual instead of rot. I struck you, she said to Evelyn. I did it because I saw a woman drowning and blaming the river. That doesn't make it right. It makes it true. Silence opened like a held breath. Putri, Evelyn said, lips thinning, won't save your job. No. Maya agreed. Truth helps me stand up straight while I lose it. The grandfather clock chimed 6. Its sound, threading through the marble, and the money like something older than both. Douglas lifted a hand. The room obeyed. I'll decide in the morning, he said. Unacceptable, Evelyn hissed. Then be angry at me, he said. I'm tired of you being angry at everyone else. For a flicker, Evelyn's face held something human, rough, unnamed. Then the lacquer returned. I'm dining in the city, she announced. The door swallowed her perfume. The staff unclenched as if oxygen had been rationed and suddenly released. George touched Maya's elbow 1 beat. Then away. Breathe, he murmured. When the foyer emptied, Maya stepped onto the back porch. Evening had arrived exhausted. The bench there was honest wood, not marble. It held a person without scorning the weight. She sat and unfolded the pink handkerchief and watched the yard sink into a blue that smelled like rain, deciding whether to bother. Her phone trembled. A photo from her sister, a little girl with a paper crown drawn by a nurse, 2 front teeth missing. Thumb up. Brave. So am I, Maya whispered. She didn't hear the door at first. Douglas stood there with his jacket off, and the sketched look of a man who has negotiated with himself and lost beautifully. Morning, he said to the darkness more than to her. I meant it. I'll be ready. Maya said, whatever you decide. He nodded at the handkerchief, whose initials, my mother's needle. Maya said, my name. He inclined his head a small courtesy. This house often forgot belonged to everyone. Good night. Miss Williams, good night. Mr. Reeves. When he left, the night settled its shawl. From somewhere in the house, a piano tried 3 notes and found one. A security light blinked twice by the service door, then went steady camera watching. The doorbell cam in the front hall, installed for safety and gala optics, watched too. Earlier that day, it had watched a manicured hand, the same hand that held a leather notebook, set a purple perfume bottle on the console table while answering a call. It had watched the hand walk away and forget what it had done. The lens didn't lie. People did. The truth was boring video, waiting for a day that wanted to be better than rumor. Inside, a memo still hung on a cork board, explaining neutral tones to a house that had never yet learned the difference between color and threat. A guard at the gate prepared to let the temp breeze through and stop Maya again. A brass ship's wheel pinned down a stack of papers no one had signed. Maya stayed on the bench exactly 5 minutes, the way a nurse rests between rounds, and then went back to work. Trash out, burners off, towels folded with a faith many churches could envy. The routine steadied her because it honored something the house kept trying to cheapen: the dignity of small, necessary acts done well. After midnight, a tick from the kitchen pulled her back. A burner cocked just past OFF, a forgotten pan sulking into smoke. She moved without thinking. Knob to 0, window cracked, fan on low, parchment relocated. Heat argued down. She stood there until the air changed from threat to lesson. A soft cough behind her, little bare feet on tile. Midnight patrol, Maya whispered. The boy nodded, eyes wide. It smelled wrong. You did right, she said, and meant more than the stove. Another set of smaller feet, a girl with hair like a storybook princess who knew too much about adults to believe in castles. She looked past Maya toward the vent and the would-be smoke. Is it a fire? She asked. Not tonight, Maya said. We caught it. Heels on marble fast. Practiced. Lavender in advance of its owner. What did you do? Evelyn demanded, mouth already shaping the chart. Prevented a fire, Maya said. Opened a window. To celebrate? Evelyn said, eyes slicing to the mugs. To the children. You're feeding them sugar at midnight. Warm milk, Maya said. Honey. Science says comfort helps sleep. That is not science. It's human, Maya said, and reached for the kettle. Douglas arrived on the last word. Barefoot, hair wrong, eyes right. He took in the scene. Children present, window open. Pan cooling, wife in battle posture, Maya steady. Thank you, he said to the room, to the person in it who had not let smoke become story. Evelyn's jaw clenched, pearls stuttering at her throat. You're thanking her for preventing a fire, he said. For preventing another one. He looked at Evelyn's hand and Maya's, and the air thickened around the choice that wasn't a choice anymore. The children sipped and exhaled, as if their lungs were learning the house could be told new stories. When they padded upstairs, their small bodies trailing calm, the room remembered itself. Not perfect, breathing. 8 o'clock, Evelyn said to the air. Agency. 8 o'clock, Douglas repeated, to himself this time, to a future he hadn't yet found words for. When the house stilled, Maya stood in the kitchen and watched the fan's slow blade sweep and sweep and sweep. She thought of the red gate light, and the green one, of a camera that didn't lie, and a ledger that did, of a nurse who promised to count lightning with a small girl who believed that 8 was lucky because it looked like forever lying down. Maya washed the last mug, dried it, set it on the rack with its mouth open to clean air. She turned off the light and let the dark be what it needed to be, not a threat this time, just a room without witnesses. Holding the echo of a sentence, the house would learn one way or another. Justice isn't always fair, but it doesn't have to be cruel. Morning would try again. she would, too. The morning came in clinical and over-caffeinated. Lights hummed, marble gleamed, and the scent of lilies tried too hard to convince everyone that grace could be bought by the stem. In the service lane, delivery vans idled like backup singers waiting for their cue. The house worked the way a theater does, with nerves, with choreography, with a lie it hoped would tell the truth. At the side gate, the scanner performed its trick again, red, green as if it were practicing humiliation in 3 acts. Badge, the guard said without looking up. He tapped the screen like it owed him money. Maya held still. A white vendor with a crate of macarons got waved through on a nod. New system, the guard added, tone apologetic toward the software, not the woman. Sometimes it just... He fluttered a hand in the universal sign for acts, black differently. Lags. It's working now, Maya said, stepping through when Mercy blinked green. Try smiling at it, the guard said, and chuckled, as if he had invented electricity. She didn't give him the laugh. She took the staff door, past the framed photo of last year's gala cover Evelyn's pearls at full wattage, Douglas's smile still believing in its audience, and walked into the kitchen. George was at the range, coaxing eggs rather than scrambling them. The difference between force and persuasion. He slid a plate toward her. Toast, scrambled, done right. Fuel, he said. Today's a heavy box. The intercom cracked. The head housekeeper's voice. All hands. North corridor. Now. They gathered in the corridor with the PR and optics memo glaring from the corkboard like a legal notice. A woman in an oatmeal blazer stood beside it. A laminate badge clipped to her lapel, Olivia Park. Communications and risk. Her smile was the kind that promised to make your funeral tasteful. We have a few quick housekeeping notes, Olivia said, and the word housekeeping drifted toward the staff like a dare. Tonight's donors include 3 national board members and a columnist from the Ledger. We'd like to minimize high-contrast visuals in the main hall between 6 and 10. She glanced up as if the phrase had tripped a sensor. That means dark uniforms should route trays through the East Passage, light uniforms in the West. A murmur, not loud, a draft. Someone exhaled a swear in Spanish. Someone laughed. The small laugh you make to keep from spitting. Olivia continued, unbothered. Also, friendly reminder that hair should be tied back and neat. Her eyes landed, like a moth pretending not to be a moth. On Maya's braid. No extra volume. George's jaw flexed. Maya felt her scalp heat and kept her voice in its lane. Copy, she said, which was not consent. It was strategy. The head housekeeper gave the finishing flick. Last note, no staff selfies, no live video. Legal has posted the policy by the lockers. Polite coughs. Polite dispersal. The words hung in the air like cologne you didn't pick. Back in the kitchen, the caterer's sous chef blocked Maya with a tray. "Excuse me, sweetheart," he said, in the tone of a man who believes words are tips, and he is generous. He looked at her hands. "You're the silver person." "Right. The fingerprints last night on the dessert forks. Try using microfiber." He waggled a cloth at her like a teaching aid. "The fingerprints were from your crew," George said mildly, without turning from the eggs. The sous chef raised both palms. "I was helping. You were failing," George replied. And that was that. Maya moved through tasks like a swimmer cutting cold water. Turn, rinse, place, count 8 on each fold. She updated the service map with the new tray routes, East Passage for dark, West for light, and labeled the diagram with arrows, fat enough to protect a teenage runner from collision, Logistics was Mercy wearing a clipboard. At 8:01, the agency called. George nodded at the wall phone. Library, he said. He wants you in earshot. Douglas stood by the window, jacket on, tie still on the dresser. Olivia from PR had materialized in his shadow, already opening a slim laptop, like a magician lifting a lid. You're on speaker. The agency rep chirped. Good morning, Mr. Reeves. We received a report of a, how shall we put it, physical altercation. Douglas's mouth thinned. We're conducting an internal review. Of course, the rep said, tone switching to concern that bills by the quarter hour. In the meantime, best practice is immediate removal. Neutralize risk. Olivia rotated the laptop to show a matrix boxes in yellow, orange, red. Risk category client-facing incident. Recommended action separation plus scripted statement. A dotted line labeled social amplification ran from the box to a graphic of a phone spitting hearts and knives. We'd like to offer a mutual separation agreement, the rep continued. 2-week severance, a neutral reference, and a non-disparagement clause for both parties. George stood behind Maya, still as furniture, solid as church. Maya looked at Douglas. May I say something? Olivia's smile misted the room. This is more of a procedural call. It's also my life, Maya said. Douglas gestured. Go on. I won't sign a story that isn't true, Maya said. If you want me gone, say it plain. Don't make me lie to feed my kid. The speakerphone crackled with surprise. Olivia's eyes sharpened almost respect, then smoothed. Douglas didn't move. I'll decide by end of day, he said, and hung up before the rep could start billing again. Olivia closed the laptop with a soft click. If we keep her, we'll need controls. She ticked them off. Restricted access to front of house during events, a clear comms channel for incident response, and she glanced at Maya, some coaching on tone. Maya's tone stayed kind. My tone kept your house from burning. Olivia's smile didn't crack. And we're grateful. George shifted his weight just enough to be felt. Gratitude fits better when it's policy. Olivia made a note, pretending to write that down. They called it a morning. In the corridor, a security tech in a gray polo wheeled a cart past with a laptop and a toolbox. Doorbell cams syncing. He told no one. New cloud plan. Redundancy. George's eyebrows made a small, private arc. Later, he murmured to Maya, so soft, only the floor heard. Come find me. Work multiplied. Runners brought cases of sparkling water that had to face label out like soldiers. The florist asked for more vases because opulence had rules. A junior staffer tried to help and moved an arrangement 4 inches to heaven's wrong. Maya corrected without making shame. The temp from yesterday, green light girl, appeared by the coffee station and gave Maya a once-over smile. You must be Maya, she said. The repetition, snide and sweet. Everyone's talking. Wild night. Maya leveled the stack of cups with a thumb. It was a kitchen, she said. Things get hot. The temp leaned closer. Off the record. You're brave. My roommate says if a woman slaps back, she's a queen. Of course, she added, voice dropping. When we do it, it's empowering. When you do it, it's problematic. You know how they get? Maya blinked, deliberately slow. No, she said. Tell me. The temp tittered, caught in her own mirror, and fled. By 10, the children had drifted into the playroom, drawn by the forbidden thrill of chandeliers hanging low in the tent like captive moons. Maya took them 2 mugs of cocoa. After checking with George, after checking with herself, the boy had a paper crown. The nurse had given him once when he'd visited the hospital for a fundraiser. He wore it like memory. The girl watched the door the way a weather vane watches sky. Is it going to be a fire again? The boy asked, lowering his voice as if fire could hear. Not today, Maya said. Today, it's rain that can't make up its mind. The girl looked at Maya's braid. A woman told me big hair means big trouble. Big minds mean big question, Maya said, and set the mugs down. Sip. Slow. On the way back to the kitchen, the head housekeeper clipped Maya's shoulder with a clipboard and didn't apologize. Laundry's late, she said. It's in the press, Maya said. Stacked by 10. The head housekeeper's mouth made a thin line. Don't be clever. Wouldn't dream of it, Maya said, with a smile so polite it could strip paint. In the kitchen, the security tech had the laptop open to a grid of black and white camera feeds. He rewound, scrubbed, paused. George hovered, feather duster in hand. The picture of excuse. Show me last Thursday. George said, all casual. Florist trampled my lilies. I like to be ready to testify. The tech obliged, back-spinning the cursor. The second-floor landing appeared a maid's cart, rattling past a housekeeper's sensible shoes. Then Evelyn, alone, in a charcoal dress, phone wedged at her ear, purple perfume bottle in hand. She stepped out of her suite, placed the bottle on the console, while she arranged her purse, said something into the phone, and swept away. The bottle sat there like a purple bruise on the table. I'll be, the tech said, whistling softly. George didn't smile. Can you export that clip for the family server? MP4, okay. MP4 is a blessing, George said, and for the first time that day allowed himself the tiniest grin. He found Maya by the pantry later and spoke without moving his lips. We have the truth. We don't have the hour. Timing matters. She nodded. Understood. By noon, the agency rep arrived in person, a scissored man with a briefcase that liked itself. He wore a tie that said we don't lose, and cologne that said we sell lost nicely when we must. Olivia joined him in the library, laptop already out, the dotted line on her risk chart now blinking faster. Evelyn swept in 3 minutes later, leather notebook in hand. Like a legal exhibit, Douglas stood by the window. George took up his post behind Maya, present as gravity. Miss Williams, the rep began. We're prepared to be generous, if we can all agree not to. Maya raised a hand. Before you finish that sentence, can we all agree to watch a video? Olivia frowned. What video? The one where an expensive perfume bottle relocates itself, George said, handing Douglas a tablet. He'd queued up the clip. A single tap started it. They watched. Evelyn didn't flinch. Her jaw did. Olivia sat very still. You could see the calculation cross her face, like weather pouring, clearing, wind. The rep adjusted his tie. Well, he said brightly, this is clarifying. Douglas set the tablet down with more care than he had ever shown a tablet. He looked at Maya. I'm not here to humiliate anyone, Maya said. Before Evelyn could choose a weapon, I'm here to keep my job and my kids' medicine. I won't sign a lie. Silence. Big, expensive silence. The lilies in the foyer breathed louder than people. Evelyn's fingers tightened on the leather notebook. She spoke to Douglas without looking at Maya. You're really going to side with, I'm going to side with what happened, he said. And he didn't raise his voice, which is that you misplaced something, blamed the nearest woman, and that nearest woman kept our children from running into smoke last night. Evelyn's smile was surgical. How noble. Olivia slid into the space like a diplomat, trying to talk two countries out of a war they both wanted. We can still get to the same place with different language, she said. No separation today. We frame this as a process review. We add controls. She glanced at Maya. Reasonable ones. Define reasonable. Maya said, no more solo front of house assignments. Olivia said, not during events. and she hesitated, which meant she knew this was bad. We maintain the neutral tones routing for tonight. Maya took the hit and turned it in her hand like an object. Rude, cheap, functional. I'll do my job, she said. I'll do it better than your chart. Olivia actually laughed. That wouldn't be hard. The rep cleared his throat. We'll need a statement in case of inquiry. Tell the truth, Maya said. It likes microphones. Olivia typed internal review, safety protocols, gratitude to staff. She left out the part where the house had chosen, for once, to be less of a liar than the people in it. They broke without shaking hands. The rep left to file a report that would eat 3 trees. Olivia stayed, hovering in Douglas's peripheral vision like a conscience that billed hourly. Evelyn closed the notebook with a soft, neat snap and walked out as if the floor were lucky to hold her. Miss Williams, Douglas said when they were alone enough to speak human, you stay? I know, Maya said. It was both relief and commitment. Staying cost. Work swallowed the afternoon, as good work does, when it's the only thing you can rescue from the day. Maya recalibrated the service map with Olivia's controls, then quietly added her own. A staff-only relief station near the East Passage with water, protein bars, Band-Aids, a pre-plated dessert backup in the cooling rack, in case the quartet's encore collided with the souffle. A spare inhaler checked into the first aid drawer, because lightning fights aren't always in the sky. Logistics was love translated into steps. At 3, the columnist from the Ledger showed up early, credentials dangling like a sheriff's star. Quick walkthrough, she said to anyone in earshot, which meant everyone is responsible for what I see. Olivia materialized at her elbow. Of course, she said, we're proud of the house's standards. They passed Maya by the sideboard. The columnist's eyes clocked the roots, the staff, the lilies, the quiet. Lots of moving parts, she said. Ever have she fished for a word complications? Not tonight, Olivia said. Smile like sunscreen. The columnist turned to Maya with the kind of friendliness that mistakes itself for harmless. Where are you from? Florida, Maya said. No, I mean the columnist fluttered a hand at the air. At Maya's skin. At centuries. Originally, Jacksonville, Maya said. Avon Kinder. Originally, I'm here. The columnist flushed. Olivia's smile lived. They moved on. George sidled up like a tide. You keep turning knives into spoon, he said. I like soup, Maya said. Before the tent filled and the quartet tuned, there was one more errand life wanted done. The children tugged at Maya's sleeve. Conspirators. Can you tie my bow? The girl asked, voice low, as if bows were state secrets. Daddy's hands make it crooked. Maya crouched, fingers precise. The same gentle math as an IV. She tied the ribbon, smoothed the dress, and looked up. Evelyn stood 10 feet away, watching with a face that didn't know which memory to believe, the one where kindness meant theft, or the one where survival meant learning how to receive help without calling it treason. Thank you, Evelyn said, not for the bow, for not making it a performance. You're welcome, Maya said, and stepped back into the hallway where she belonged and refused to disappear. At 6, the house put on its mask. Guests slipped from cars like adjectives. Photographers flashed. The tent glowed with its captive moons. Maya worked the East Passage, her tray a small planet moving in lawful orbit. She saw everything and everyone who stiffened when she passed, who thanked without looking up, who murmured, bless you, like a spell to keep their own fear down. She didn't break. She didn't bend in the places that mattered. Between courses, Olivia cornered her near the service door, phone in hand. If anything trends, she said, I'll text you a phrase to say if asked. Maya lifted an eyebrow. To whom? Anyone. Olivia said, this is the internet. Anyone is everyone. Here's my phrase. Maya said, we told the truth. It worked. Olivia almost smiled for real. Keep that one. At 7:42, George intercepted Maya with the smallest nod. Now, he offered no reason, just the root library. 30 seconds. She slid through the hall with the ease of someone who had learned the house's rhythms by heart. In the library, Douglas stood by the window again, the paperweight angled as though north were a decision. He didn't sit. I moved the donor breakfast to the children's hospital, he said. Next week, we'll announce it tonight. And I asked if the music program wants a short performance. Maya blinked. Evelyn. She said she'll try, he said. She asked if you'd sit front row. Maya didn't let the surprise unspool into hope too fast. I'll be there. He nodded once, the motion of a man learning to pick his battles, and discovering some of them were his. Back in the tent, the quartet eased into a waltz that had survived other scandals. The columnist took notes with an air of benevolence she hadn't earned. The Lilies did their best impression of innocence. The head housekeeper counted chairs, the way some people count sins. Maya passed the head table. Evelyn's hand hovered for a fraction as if to lift, as if to repeat yesterday's mistake. It didn't. She placed her palm flat on the linen, anchored by the fact of it. Her eyes flicked up and found Maya's. For once, there was no ledger in the look. There was only a question. Can I be different? Where it counts? Maya didn't nod. She didn't soften. She didn't narrate. She moved. She worked. She kept the house from burning in all the quiet ways that never make a press release. At 8:10, the doorbell cam blinked its silent truth into a server folder labeled Retention 30 Days. The file name was Ugly Landing. 2024-03. Evelyn. Perfume. MP4. George had given it a second label. For himself receipt. He was too old, too tired, too loyal to make a show of it. He would keep it if he needed it. He hoped he didn't. At 8:30, Maya's phone vibrated a hospital exchange prefix. She checked the time, checked her tray, checked the corridor. George read her face, lifted the tray from her hands with a professionalism that could shame King, and nodded toward the side porch. Go, he said. Lightning count. Maya stepped into the cool and pressed the phone to her ear. The nurse's voice was a lullaby running on caffeine. Miss Williams. She's asleep. Fever holding. She drew another sun. 8 rays. She told me 8 is for forever. It is, Maya said, and let the porch bench hold her spine for one blessed minute. When she slipped back in, the house kept breathing. The clock in the foyer marched toward the hour, where performance tries to look like truth. In the kitchen, someone had scrawled on the whiteboard in dry erase blue. If you're tired, say so. If you're hungry, eat. If you're scared, tell the truth. No one signed it. Everyone knew. Maya picked up a fresh tray, rolled her shoulders once, and stepped into the East Passage. Service on. Eyes open. Corners watched. Optics had come with its matrix and its dotted line. Evidence had arrived late but in time. And between them, a woman moved through a house that had tried to make her a problem, and was learning unwillingly, and then a little willingly, to recognize her as the solution it didn't deserve, and still needed. The night wasn't done with them. The twist hadn't turned yet, but the ground had shifted half an inch toward decent, half an inch away from the old performance, and sometimes, in a house built to last, a half inch is the beginning of repair. By morning the tent looked hung over chairs, ghosted with linen impressions, the chandeliers half lowered like crowns after a coronation. The air carried the residue of perfume and performance, sweet and stale. In the foyer, someone had left a single-place card on the console. Mrs. Whitfield, Table 1. A survivor or an omen, hard to tell. In the kitchen, the day took attendance. George was already there, coat off, sleeves rolled, whisk moving like steady weather. Maya arrived with the quiet aftertaste of the hospital's midnight call still in her mouth. Fever down, sun with 8 rays, infinity sideways. She'd slept in 10-minute coins, paid out to morning. Coffee, George announced, sliding a mug toward her. Black, no speeches. She smiled. What are we fixing today? Everything that pretended to work last night, he said, plus optics. As if summoned, Olivia Park appeared in the doorway, with a tablet and an apologetic smile that asked to be loved by enemies. She wore storm-colored silk and certainty. Quick stand-up in the library, she said. We're issuing a holding statement. The house gonna talk now? George asked, not moving. Olivia's smile didn't lose a step. It already did, she said, and was gone. They gathered in the library, Douglas at the window, Evelyn by the mantel with her leather notebook closed like a mouth, the head housekeeper rigid as a rule, the agency rep back on video with a fresh haircut and fewer options. Maya stood half a pace behind George, near a shelf of atlases that made promises about routes and destinations. On the desk, Olivia's tablet glowed with a draft titled Statement for Immediate Release. Read, Douglas said. Olivia read, The Reeves household is grateful to staff and partners for their professionalism during last night's event. We are reviewing internal procedures to ensure safety and excellence in all operations. No guests were in danger. We will not be commenting on personnel matters. She looked up. Concise. Calming. Non-litigious. Translation. George murmured. We saw the fire. Loved the smoke. Olivia pretended not to hear. The Ledger columnist pinged me at 6 amperes. She went on. She's filing a soft piece money. Medicine. Music. But there's a line about an altercation rumor. If we give her dignity, she'll take it. Define dignity, Evelyn said, gaze on her closed notebook. Nothing that feeds the machine. Olivia said, nothing that makes anyone a symbol against their will. Maya breathed once through her nose. Don't use me to clean the house and then hide me in the broom closet, she said. Say what happened without making it my fault or your charity. Olivia nodded. To her credit, typed, We acknowledge an incident between 2 members of the household. We addressed it promptly and privately. We are committed to a workplace, rooted in respect. She glanced at Maya. Better. Truer, Maya said. The agency rep's rectangle cleared his throat. We still recommend minimizing her. He pointed his chin at the screen, like it was a direction presence in public-facing spaces. Douglas's eyes flicked to Olivia. No, we're not airbrushing reality. Olivia held the line between them like a bridge. We are being intentional. There's a difference. Evelyn's voice slid in. Slow. Cool. And what are we calling intentional when it looks like separate hallways for separate skin? No one spoke. The tablet hummed. Call it what it is, Maya said. Steady. Abiaz dressed like logistics. Olivia's posture softened a notch. Then let's fix the dress, she said, surprising them all, maybe herself. We retire the east-west routing. We keep traffic flowing any direction that's safest. The head housekeeper stared at the carpet as if it had betrayed her. Good, Douglas said. And we add staff breaks by schedule, not permission. He looked at Maya. Put it on the board. Non-negotiable. Olivia slid the statement across the desk. If there are no objections, we release in an hour. Release. Douglas said. He signed with a fingertip. The tablet chimed. The statement left the room like a bird that would either circle back with a story or disappear into a sky that didn't care. Next, Olivia said, still in motion, security is updating protocols. The doorbell cam archives are now encrypted. Access sits with Mr. Reeves, head of security, and myself. No external pulls without sign-off. George's eyebrows made a skeptical tilde. And the truth, saved in 3 places. Olivia said, one of them has my mother's maiden name as the password. You'll never guess it. She almost smiled. Also, a gentleman from the Beacon left a message at the service line, wants a quote from the employee allegedly involved. Oh, the word you want is woman, Maya said. Olivia's Hazemet direct. Do you want to speak? Not yet, Maya said. Not on his terms. If I do, it'll be at the hospital event. On mine. Douglas nodded, quick and quiet, like a man recognizing a boundary he wished he'd learned earlier. The meeting broke like a tide. People flowed to their tasks. Olivia peeled off to charm the ledger. The agency rep vanished into bandwidth. The head housekeeper left a chill like air conditioning set by a grudge. Evelyn Lingal, eyes on the atlas spines. Your statement, she said to Olivia's absence, left out the part where I was wrong. Olivia, already in the hall, called back without turning. We left room for you to say it. Mrs. Reeves. Evelyn's jaw worked. Then she left the room and the conversation and maybe the skin she'd been wearing. Microaggressions love daylight. They hit at night because candles flatter and chandeliers lie. Morning gave them shape. At the side gate, the guard from yesterday tried a joke. He thought had a receipt. You and that scanner, he said, waving Maya through. Now that intentionality had been memoed, must be love-hate. It's accurate, about one of us, Maya said, and didn't slow. In the pantry, a vendor dropped a cooler and a compliment. You're surprisingly articulate, he said, like he was handing out trophies. Words are cheap, Maya said. I'm expensive. In the laundry, the head housekeeper gave diagnostics without data. Staff morale seems reactive, she said to Maya, tapping a clipboard already full of check marks that had never fed anyone. Maybe lead by example. Smile more. Maya smiled the way a scalpel gleam. There it is. George passed behind them and whispered, duck season. And that was enough to save a morning. Maya posted the new break schedule on the board 1030. Isan Ling. Nelia Kolmekumenta. 15 minutes. No questions. She stocked the relief station water, fruit, granola bars, a box of Band-Aids, and a handwritten note, eat, hydrate, breathe. She translated it into Spanish below without telling anyone she'd practiced the verbs at night. At noon, the ledger's soft piece hid a photo of the tent in golden hour, a paragraph about philanthropy and pianists, and a household that felt like a machine polished by invisible hands. Olivia had earned her retainer, but halfway down, a sentence with teeth. There was a rumor of a brief confrontation between 2 members of the household. When asked, Mr. Reeves said only we handled it. The staff declined to be quoted, except one who said, we told the truth. It worked. Olivia appeared with the printout and a grin that almost reached sincerity. You leak, she accused. Light. I breathe, Maya said. You asked me if I wanted to speak. I did. In 8 words, strong words, Olivia said, tapping the quote, the way people tap a new piano. Signal, not noise. Douglas read it twice. The second time, he didn't wince. Evelyn read it and closed her eyes for a heartbeat, like a pianist hearing a chord she'd once known how to play. By mid-afternoon, the house felt like a courtroom on a recess, the trial not over, the jury still out, the gallery gossiping with sandwiches. The security tech returned to install a new keypad on the service entrance. Multi-factor, he announced. Codes rotate Sundays. Text goes out Saturday night. Who gets the text? Maya asked. Everyone on the list, he said. Whose list? George asked. The tech shrugged. Ops. Ops lives where? George persisted. The tech hesitated. Seattle. Or Ohio. There's a ticketing portal. A portal, George repeated, as if tasting a word that promised heaven and delivered hold music. Loop me, Olivia said, appearing. How did she always do that? From the hallway. And Miss Williams, add their numbers. Done, the tech said, typing the kind of keystrokes that accidentally write history. Olivia looked at Maya. I can't fix the past, she said, but I can try to keep bad habits from calling themselves policy. Maya believed her in increments. Start with the scanner, she said. If randomized, then randomized, not calibrated by prejudice. Olivia nodded. Give me an hour. Give me the manual override. George said, when systems panic, old men save the day. The tech handed him a laminated card. Don't lose it. I outlive laminate, George said. The kids found Maya in the playroom later. Conspirators again. Sugar high on cocoa. And the possibility of a life not policed by whispers. Mom practiced. The boy announced, chest out. She didn't stop at the hard part. Twice, the girl said, equal parts, disbelief and pride. Practice is how hands learn honesty, Maya said. You're coming to the hospital next week, right? The girl asked, trying to make casual sound like oxygen. Front row, Maya said. If your mom wants me there? The girl shrugged, eyes bright as betrayal. She'll say she doesn't. She'll want you anyway. People do both, Maya said. It's called being alive. The boy pulled a folded paper from his pocket and handed it to Maya like contraband. A drawing the playroom tower on an atlas, a red stop line between a lifted hand and another hand open in reply. The caption, spelled like Hope Stopgo. He'd drawn 8 little suns along the bottom. Maya swallowed. I'll keep it, she said. It'll remind me how to drive. At 4, the first true storm arrived, not weather. PR. The Beacon posted a thread. Tip Reeves' household staffer struck employer, agency mum. Developing. The comments metastasized the way comments do. There were the predictable camps. Team class. Team cows. Team I knew it. Team this is why we can't have nice thing. There were the trolls. There were the saints. There were the bored. Olivia walked into the kitchen mid-thread like a firefighter who packs snacks. We hold, she said, palms out. No reactive posting. No clapping back. If anyone approaches you, send them to me. Anyone, George asked. Even my barber. Especially your barber, Olivia said. The head housekeeper hovered at the threshold, wringing a dish towel that had committed no crime. There's a reporter by the gate, she said. He asked for the woman from Florida. Enders. Maya wiped her hands. Does he want the weather? Too. She looked at Olivia. I'll go to the side porch. He can shout from the sidewalk. Not alone. Douglas said, already moving. Olivia stepped between them. No direct contact, she said. We're not losing the thread, we finally wrote. Then I'll write one, Maya said, calm and tired of being written about. She took the tablet, opened the Reeves Foundation accounts drafts, without asking, typed. Olivia leaned in, reading over her shoulder, not correcting. The words were clean. A rumor is a lazy witness. The truth is, our staff prevented a hazard. Our family addressed a conflict, and we're focusing on the pediatric event next week. If you want spectacle, wrong house. If you want hospitals funded and children safe, see you there. Olivia let out a breath. Post it. Douglas nodded. Post. Evelyn read the draft, looked at Maya, and gave a small nod of her own. something like permission, or gratitude, or both. Maya tapped publish. The tablet made no sound, but the air did. The thread stopped spiraling and began to orbit something else. Olivia's phone buzzed at once. The Ledger columnist line. Olivia wrote back no line. A link. Bring your checkbook. The Beacon reporter got bored without oxygen and turned his camera on a squirrel. The squirrel did not care. The algorithm did. Evening slid in, tired but cleaner. The garden rinsed itself under a sky that couldn't decide between blue and newsprint. Work returned to the business of living. Maya stocked bath linens, updated the vendor roster, and taped a little index card inside the broom closet, where only the people who did the work would see it. If you're tired, say so. If you're hungry, eat. If you're scared, tell the truth. If you have an idea, share it. Blame isn't welcome here. She wrote it in English and Spanish and the secret language of women who keep houses standing without credit. She was sliding the index card into its corner when footsteps sounded in the hall. Measured. Expensive. Evelyn, got a minute? Evelyn asked. Not imperious. Human. Maya nodded. They stepped into the music room. The piano waited like a dog that had learned not to flinch. Sheet music lay open Sadie. Then a simpler piece underneath it. Something the muscles could do when the mind failed. I'm playing at the hospital, Evelyn said, her voice steady in a way that cost. Olivia says presence is the word. I'd like company. The right kind. I'll sit, Maya said. Front row. Not as a prop, as a person. Evelyn's lips twisted. Humor's first shy visit. No props, she said. She looked at her hand. When did mine become instruments again? When you ask, Maya said. A beat. The confession arrived like a late train. I read the security clip, Evelyn said. The perfume. I knew what it would show. I watched anyway. She swallowed. I'm sorry. The room accepted the apology without applause. Forgiveness didn't take off its coat. It sat by the door, waiting to see if it would be needed. Thank you, Maya said, because it is a difficult thing to break your own narrative. And she had watched men receive medals for less. Evelyn set her fingers on the keys and played a phrase that wanted to run. It didn't. She stopped at the hard bar, breathed, and kept going. Not beautiful. Better. True. Mom. A small voice said from the doorway. The girl stood there, shoelace loose, face open. Can you tie it? Evelyn froze for a fraction, as if that request came from a country she no longer had papers for. Then she knelt, took the lace, and tied it twice, her hands remembering work outside of war. The girl looked at Maya over her mother's bent head and gave a look. Kids reserved for witnesses. You saw that. Right. It counts. It counted. The house tried on a new habit after dinner ordinary. Olivia put her tablet away and listened to a joke that didn't belong to her and laughed like it did. On the back porch, the air smelled like wet cedar and decision. Maya sat on the bench with her phone and dialed the hospital. Miss Williams, the night nurse said, we have a brave girl who asked if thunder can hear her count. It can, Maya said. It loves math. She listened to the small voice say, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, and matched it with her own breath. When the call ended, she sat a minute longer and let the bench keep her posture honest. The door opened. Douglas stepped out. No tie, no armor. He didn't sit. He leaned against the jamb like a man who trusted wood. Thank you, he said, eyes on a middle distance that had not belonged to him in years. For what? Maya asked. For not letting the house make you smaller, he said. It's been asking people to do that for a long time. She let the truth land where it needed to. I can't afford small, she said. My kid needs a mother who takes up the exact space she's earned. Then take it. he said. And if anyone tries to charge you a fee, send them to me. Be careful, she said. That's an expensive promise. He smiled like a man who had finally decided to spend his money on something worth the invoice. Good night, Miss Williams. Good night, Mr. Reeves. He went back inside to the paperwork of repair. She stayed a minute more with the math of thunder. When she finally rose, the house felt different by half an inch. That was all. Half an inch toward decent, half an inch away from the old play that had run too long. Sometimes that's how foundations change under the noise, under the lilies, under the legal statements, and the camera feeds by invisible hands, doing visible work and refusing, politely and forever, to disappear. The storm would be back. Media storms always were. Family weather was slower, trickier, more honest, but a statement had been made, on paper and on a porch. A woman had kept her job without swallowing a lie. A house had learned to root around its prejudice. And somewhere in a hospital bed, a child believed 8 was forever. Tomorrow would ask for more. Tonight, the bench said, enough. And for once, the house agreed. By dawn, the Reeves estate looked like a crime scene that had decided to tidy itself. Yesterday's statement had done its work, calmed the donors, redirected the thread. But systems don't trust statements. Systems ask for receipts. The receipts arrived at 8.3 amperes. M, wearing a gray suit, and a badge that said, compliance and risk in a font that had never told a joke. Her name was Tamsin Cole, mid-40s. Precise bun, shoes that could walk through lawsuits. She met Maya in the kitchen as if the house had scheduled an ambush with coffee. Miss Williams, Tamsin said, offering a card and a temperature. I'm here to conduct a neutral workplace review. Scope includes security protocols, grievance procedures, and incident documentation. I'll need staff logs, camera access records, and 15 minutes with you, privately. George eyed the card like it owed him money. You want toast with that? Love to, Tamsin said without blinking. Dry. Olivia arrived seconds behind. Tableli. We requested the review, she said, heading off the chill. Best defense is a clean house. Best defense is a better offense, Tamsin said, taking a stool. But housekeeping works. She clicked a pen. Who's head of household workflow? Olivia tilted her chin toward Maya. She is. No theatrics. No preamble, just the new fact placed on the table with the mugs. Tamsin nodded once, looked at Maya's hands like they might be maps. Congratulations and condolences. Start by walking me through yesterday's statement process. Chain of approvals. Versioning. Who touched the draft? Olivia drafted, Maya said. Mr. Reeves approved. I requested a revision. Acknowledge an incident. Commit to respect. Avoid euphemisms. We published at noon. Tamsin scribbled. Good. Less spin is less leak. She turned to George. Your senior staff. Longer than the marble. He said. What's the cultural baseline here? She asked. Deadpan. If I say microaggressions, do I get eye roll or a list? You get a bingo card, George said, and pointed his chin at Maya. She's got the winning squares. Maya smiled without humor. Gate scans that love brown wrists. Compliments that sound like court transcripts. A clipboard that mistakes control for safety. Tamsin didn't smile either. You're not wrong. Now security. Head of security. A former cop named Remy with the posture of a doorstop. Stepped in. We rotated codes. Added MFA. He slid a printout across the island. New access tiers. Names and role. Dates. Camera archive is locked. Who holds keys? Tamsin asked. Me. Mr. Reeves. Olivia. Remy said, and a physical override with George, so the servers don't boss us. Tamsin tiltighed. Respect her version without praise. We'll test it by noon. She tapped the pen. Next grievance pathway. Where do employees go when power misbehaves? And don't say, agency hotline, unless you want me to laugh. Used to be nowhere, Maya said. Now it's me for routing, Olivia for escalation, and Mr. Reeves for sign-off. We're adding a written policy. 2 languages, no retaliation, posted where brooms live. Tamsin wrote broom closet and underlined it. Irone welcomed. The air shifted. The housekeeper appeared at the threshold holding a manila folder like a shield. Mrs. Cole, she said, voice clip, incident forms, last 12 months. Tamsin didn't take the folder. Hand them to Miss Williams. She glanced at Maya. Chain of custody matters. If you're accountable, you hold the paper. The head housekeeper held the folder a breath too long, then let it go. Paperweight in every sense. Olivia checked the hallway. We'll stage in the library. Quick stand-up at 9. The library ran on a new law today, eye contact. Douglas stood at the desk, sleeves rolled, tie on but subdued, like he'd decided to respect callers without letting them choke him. Evelyn hovered by the window, her closed leather notebook, replaced by sheet music, a downgrade or an upgrade, depending on your theology. Tamsin took the head chair with the ease of someone who'd sat in worse rooms. I'm going to enter this house like I did a pediatric ICU, she said. Everything looks clean. Assume there's an infection. We treat systems, not symptoms. Evelyn's eyebrows lifted. Hospitals. My brother's a nurse, Tamsin said. They taught me triage, then triage, Douglas said. Palms flat on the desk. 3 fronts, Tamsin said. Process, perception, pattern, process locks, logs, lines of reporting, perception, what the outside thinks you are, pattern, whether your house confuses preference with policy and bias with fit. Internet. She scanned faces. I'll be blunt. A rumor about a domestic worker striking an employer landed in a culture already primed to assign guilt based on skin and paycheck. That's not your fault. It is your reality. You don't beat that with speeches. You beat it with receipts and reform. She pointed her pen, not like a weapon, like a conductor. You published a statement. Good. Now actions. Who's replacing the agency rules that punish the visible and protect the volatile? Douglas didn't hesitate. I am. Evelyn's voice cut in. Less ice than habit. We are. Tamsin nodded. We'll see. Next patterns. She tapped the folder Maya held. What do those forms say? Maya slid a few pages free. 7 incident reports in 12 months missing item followed by found. No apology recorded. Tone concerns. All filed against women with names that made certain mouths stumble. Boundary violations. Vages fog. Tamsin looked at Evelyn, then at Douglas. Your house has been publishing fiction under the compliance imprint, she said. We're closing that press. Evelyn's face changed a fraction. A film splice you'd miss if you blinked. So we burn the past, she asked. Who does that help? We annotate it, Tamsin said. Footnote every lie. Then we build something that doesn't keep needing footnotes. Silence held without falling. Then Douglas said, okay. Tamsin checked her watch. 11 minutes left. 2 questions. She turned to Maya. What do you need to do your job without swallowing yourself? Maya didn't rehearse. Authority that holds when the room changes temperature, a budget line that pays in time, not just cash, and doors that beep the same for everybody. Done. Done. And Remy, Douglas said. Remy. From the doorway, gave a low salute. Tamsin turned to Evelyn. What do you need to stop being scary when you're scared? The room flinched. The question was a clean blade. Evelyn's throat worked. Then she surprised everyone, including herself. An exit that isn't punishment, she said. If I can step away without destroying someone, I might stop grabbing for the nearest throat. And a witness who tells me when I'm lying in fluent pretty. Tamsin nodded once, like a judge who'd heard a plea and found the right statute. We can build both. She stood, clicked her pen shut. I'll be underfoot all day. Please don't perform for me. Perform for the cameras. They're meaner. As they dispersed, Olivia touched the folder in Maya's hands. We'll digitize, redact names, highlight rot, she said. Then bury this theater and open a better one. Keep a hard copy, George advised. Every miracle needs a paper trail. At 1120, the power blinked, not a full outage, just a hiccup that made the chandeliers shiver and the espresso machines sigh. The generator kicked in with the smooth self-satisfaction of a creature that loved emergencies. Remy jogged past with a walkie, tree limb on the back line. He called, utilities en route. Manual override on the gate holds. Tamsin asked, right there again. A weather event in a suit. George patted his pocket, showed the card. Paper beats Portal. Maya moved toward the pantry to check the refrigeration temp log. As she turned, a familiar voice leaned from the hall. A cousin of Nice with a switchblade under its tongue. Miss Williams. Mrs. Whitfield murmured, Fosoft. The donor who'd lost her place card had found her nerve. A quick word. I'm collecting anecdotes for the Beacon to counter all this. You'd be such a powerful example. Example of what? Maya asked, not stopping. Resilience. Mrs. Whitfield said, falling into the word like a chaise. And gratitude, the American story. I'm living the American invoice. Maya said, quote me on receipts. Mrs. Whitfield's smile showed teeth, so prickly. You know, I organize a domestic workers initiative at church. We do coats in winter. Try contracts in summer. Maya said, start there. Olivia slid between them like a curtain. Mrs. Whitfield, she said, weaponized charm. We're doing a press-free day. If you'd like to help, the hospital registry needs volunteers to call donors about the event. Oh, Mrs. Whitfield said, blinking. Phones. Phones, Olivia said, guiding her away with the efficiency of a maitre removing a raccoon from a banquet. Maya exhaled. George, appearing like a good ghost, said, they always bring gratitude when they mean obedience. And coats, Maya said, coats are warm. George allowed, they just shouldn't be the only plan. At 1:05, the day chose violence in the pettiest way. Mrs. Whitfield's diamond earring went missing during her phone banking debut. In the study, she announced the loss like a siren. It was right here, she cried, pointing at the Persian rug, as if its pattern had conspired. I took it off because it pinches. Now it's gone. The word moved through the house at the speed of bias. The head housekeeper froze. Olivia went pale. Remy swore into his collar mic and pulled up cameras. Tamsin stepped into the study and did not raise her voice. We freeze the scene. No one leaves. No one is searched. We roll footage. We check vents, share rails, and the mouths of vacuums. We assume misplacement, not theft. Mrs. Whitfield blinked at her as if the laws of physics had been replaced by decency without her consent. But the staff are not a suspect class, Tamsin said, turning to the nearest camera. Remy. On it, Remy said, already scrubbing back the last hour. Maya stood at the threshold and felt her pulse go wolf. Fingers remembered cold metal on warm skin those nights in Florida, when security guards at discount stores had more authority than law. She breathed once, twice, 8 times. Remy found the clip. Mrs. Whitfield, alone, takes off the earring, sets it on the spine of a book, to free her hands, answers a call, then gestures and knocks the book the smallest inch. The earring flips down the back of the shelf. Tamsin paused the frame, then crouched at the bookcase, slid 2 first editions aside, fished into the dark, and came up with Diamond and Dust. She didn't gloat. She placed the earring in Mrs. Whitfield's palm like a rehabbed bird. Happens, she said, to everyone. Mrs. Whitfield went a color named caught. Oh, well, thank you. Maya could have enjoyed the moment. She didn't. Her adrenaline, once ignited, takes hours to learn a new script. She stepped into the hall, leaned a shoulder to the cool paneling, and closed her eyes. Breathe, George said softly, arriving with water already uncapped. Storm passed. Not the one that matters, Maya said, voice rough. That one lives in people. People can be evicted, George mused. Takes paperwork. And breakfast. Tamsin appeared, offered Maya a look that included data, and something nearly kind. You okay? I will be, Maya said. Next time someone says search, Tamsin said, say warrant. If they say protocol, say show me. If they say policy, ask who wrote it and who benefited. Idreen, Maya nodded. She filed the words where she keeps tools. Olivia materialized with a text open on her screen. Ledger wants to run a follow-up. Rumor proves false in house that loves receipts. They asked for a photo of you at the relief station. Maya huffed. What am I? A mascot. A forewoman. Olivia said. Pick the shot. Pick the crew. Maya said. No hero frames. They staged a simple photo. Maya restocking water at the relief station, Sophia taping a gracias beside the thank you, George pretending not to look proud, Remy changing batteries in a smoke detector. Work, not performance. The camera, Olivia's phone, portrait mode off, saw them, and did not make the moment poetry, just proof. At 3:40, the house ran out of excuses to delay the thing everyone could feel coming. Evelyn stood in the music room in a pale sweater and flats. Sheet music open. The children sat on the landing, backs to balusters, knees touching. Douglas appeared at the threshold, not crossing it. Tamsin, of all people, leaned in the doorway like a critic who wants to be wrong. Evelyn put her fingers on the keys. They hovered the way hers always had, grace, threatening retreat. She looked up and found Maya in the back row of a room without rows. Maya didn't nod. She just breathed once. For 2, Evelyn began. Sati first, simple. Repeating. The musical equivalent of teaching your body that breath comes back. She reached the bar where she always used to stop and didn't. She kept going, and the room felt it like a blood pressure cuff released. In the middle of the second movement, her right hand shook not a lot, enough to announce a history. She didn't pull away. She pressed harder, and the tremor became part of the sound. The imperfection made it human. The persistence made it art. She ended without flourish. No audience clapped. The house exhaled. Again, the girl called softly, and Evelyn smiled, a smile she hadn't worn in a decade. Tomorrow, she said. At the hospital, she stood, looked at Maya. Something moved across her face that wasn't apology, because apology had already found its chair. It was an ask. Will you sit with me? She said. Front row. Maya could have said many things. She chose the only one that didn't turn the moment into theater. I will. Good. Evelyn said, half to the keys, half to herself. Then I'll keep going. Tamsin checked her watch like a metronome who'd finally liked a song. I'll send my preliminary tonight, she said to Douglas in the hall. You'll hate some of it. Implement anyway. How bad? He asked. You're not a headline, she said. Yet, keep it that way. Stay for dinner, George said, because feeding truth is part of his religion. Rain check, Tamsin said. I've got 3 condos in Soho. trying to reinvent humanity with incense and NDAs. She shook Maya's hand. "You'll get offers," she said quietly, and it didn't sound like a threat. "Pick the one that doesn't ask you to trade your voice for a varnish." "I'm not for sale," Maya said. "Good," Tamsin said. "Then you'll be worth more." She left as she arrived on time, in control, leaving behind a room that would not go back to what it was without a fight. Evening folded over the house, and for once the fold didn't crease. The generator slept. The gates behaved. The espresso machine purred like an animal that had decided not to bite the hand. Maya stepped onto the back porch with her phone, and the drawing the boy had given her stopped go in 8 Sons. She called the hospital. The nurse put the phone to a small ear. They counted to 8 together and then lay there in the silence that makes counting matter. When she hung up, Douglas stepped outside with 2 mugs. "Tea," he said, offering one. "Not gratitude." "Good," Maya said. "I'm full." He glanced at the drawing. "We got through the day without burning the house down. We almost burned it down with a book," she said, and they both laughed, surprised by the mercy of it. "Tomorrow?" he asked. "Hospital," she said. "Music. Receipts. No props. Front row," he said. "Front row," she agreed. He started to go, then turned back. "For what it's worth," he said, "I read the old incident forms today. They're bad theater. I'm shutting that play. Open a kitchen," Maya said. "People behave better where there's soup." He smiled, tired and new. "Good night, Miss Williams." "Good night, Mr. Reeves." She stayed a minute longer. It's the bench. A steady friend. Inside, the house practiced ordinary forks in drawers, towels in stacks, sheet music on a piano that had decided not to keep secrets. Outside, the air smelled like something that had been cleaned without chemicals. Rain. Cedar. A little electricity. She looked at the drawing again, at the red line between a raised hand and an open one, at the 8 Sons that insisted on forever. Tomorrow would ask for more. It always did. Tonight, the audit had named the infections. The alley had given back the diamond without a cavity search. The ask had been made and answered. She folded the paper, slid it into the pocket where she kept the handkerchief with her initials and the names of women who'd shown her how to live through weather. Then she went inside and set alarms, not because she was afraid, but because decency deserves schedules. The hospital looked like a spaceship that had landed to negotiate with gravity glass. Light. Atrium palms that tried to convince fear it was a guest, not a tenant. By 8:15 amperes, the Reeves Pediatric Wing Benefit Music and Medicine banner floated above the donor desk. By 8:17, Maya discovered that even a building dedicated to healing could find a new way to brew. Volunteer badges on blue lanyards, staff badges on white, guests on silver. The registration coordinator rattled the rules like a rosary. She handed Maya a blue lanyard and a laminated card that said Household Support in sans serif that felt like a smirk. Olivia arrived with 2 coffees and 1 smile aimed to disarm metal detectors. "We're upgrading that," she said, relieving Maya of the blue. "She's not a volunteer, she's operations." "White lanyard, please." "White is for employees," the coordinator said. "Insurance." "Then make an exception," Olivia said. "Or make a note we're paying her as staff." The coordinator blinked. Hospital policy had arms. They crossed. "I need risk management." "You already have me," Olivia said, "but fetch yours." "We collect receipts." A woman in an olive blazer materialized the hospital's risk-led, hair in a no-nonsense ponytail, a face that had seen lawsuits and had not flinched. "Problem. Classification," Olivia said, gentle as sandpaper. "This event runs on her logistics." Risk. Read Maya. Fast posture. "Calm." The kind of eyes that don't traffic in drama. White, she decided, digging into a drawer. And someone tells security that blue and white are not a caste system. They're a workflow. She clipped the white lanyard on Maya herself. "Thanks for doing this," she said. "My kid had 3 nights in this ICU last year. I pay attention to the women who keep rooms from burning." Microaggressions backed up. Sahid and took a number. Douglas arrived with a folder and a face that wore sleep like a rumor. He checked the run of show, signed 2 last-minute indemnity forms, declined a third, with a line that sounded like a boundary. "No, we don't consent to backstage photography near minors. Common sense still exists." Evelyn came through a side door with a garment bag and a piano score pressed to her chest like a passport. No leather notebook, no pearls, soft slacks, pale blouse, flats. A woman dressed for fighting a battle that required breath, not armor. She stopped when she saw Maya at the top of the donor terrace steps. "Front row?" Evelyn asked. Not quite a question. "Front row," Maya said. They entered the green room together and found nerves pretending to be furniture, a carafe of water, a tray of granola bars in individual wrappers as if safety could be portioned, a media holding sign on the door across the hall like a mouthguard. Remy, wearing an earpiece he had promised never to wear again, briefed them. 2 camera positions, main floor and balcony. Hospital PR owns the feed. We've got a 2-second delay in case Truth pops out wearing an F-bomb. That's Olivia's button. "Don't tempt me," Olivia said. Tamsin texted from somewhere midtown. "Prelim report sent. You have pattern problems, progress points, and a headline you don't want. Today buys you leverage. Don't spend it on vanity." Maya shot back receipt speeches. "Counting to 8. Count to 8. Tamsin replied. "Play the 9th for yourself." The first pinch came disguised as courtesy. A hospital board member, Mr. Crest, silver tie, silver hair, silver tongue, cornered Douglas near the donor wall. "Ah, Reeves," he said. "We're thrilled. I hear the Mrs. is playing." He said Mrs., the way some people say antique, valuable in the room, irrelevant in the world. "And Miss William," he added, the smile widening enough to reveal the calculation behind it. "She works for you." "Correct. She runs my house," Douglas said. "Today she runs the flow." "Ah." Crest's eyes landed on Maya's badge. Lingered. Moved on. "Splendid." He drifted away, dropping a line with the follow-through of a man who believes gravity obeys him. "One hopes all incidents are resolved. Optics matter. Evidence matters." Maya said roughly to the air. "Olivia goes to that here elbow. He donates in monochrome," she said. "Makes him say monochrome thing. Then we teach color," Maya said. "With invoices at 1006. Security Nadarid." Maya walked the backstage corridor with a clipboard and a map in her head when a guard she hadn't met stood up too straight and made his voice 10% louder than the hallway required. "Blue lanyard, stay off stage," he said without looking at the badge he'd been trained to read. "White lanyard." Her hand rose. "Calm. Chin level. I'm white today." He blinked once, recalibrated, found another gear for the tone. "Backstage is still restricted." "By whom?" Maya asked. "And for what?" He glanced toward a supervisor, a woman with kind eyes and exhausted protocols. The supervisor read the room in one glance, the optics, the lanyard, the axis between enforcement and embarrassment. "She's cleared," the supervisor said. "We emailed the list." Maya nodded, not meek, not triumphant. To the guard, she offered the only olive branch worth giving. "The rule is good. Just make it accurate." He nodded, cheeks warming. "Copy that." She took 5 steps, exhaled, and let herself feel it. The low-grade corrosion moments like that leave behind. Then she shook it off like rain. 8 counts. 1 breath. They seated donors. They toned down B-roll. They wrangled a surprise shipment of tiny pinwheels. The hospital foundation had insisted, made Joy show up better on camera. Remy dispatched a runner to reclaim a wheelchair. The media team had repurposed as a tripod dolly. No prop people, he said. That has wheels because someone needs them. Kids in gowns with cartoon animals on them were wheeled in by nurses who had learned how to make machines look friendly. The atrium changed shape. Money likes to be admired. Courage likes to be useful. The second one, a volunteer whispered something barbed to a mother in hijab. It's wonderful. You're comfortable coming here. The kind of compliment that claims permission to gatekeep the air. Maya caught it, fixed it. Welcome, she told the mother, with no italic, no subtext. Do you want to sit where you can see your child's eyes or their hands? We can move a chair. The woman blinked tears back. Eyes, she said, and Maya moved the chair. Evelyn watched from the stage steps as Maya made the world rearrange itself without drama. Her throat stepped wrong. She put her fingers on the back of a chair until they behaved. 5, Olivia whispered, fingers at her earpiece. 4, 3, 2. The lights softened. The atrium hush found its adult voice, and Douglas walked to the lectern with a face that had been told not to perform and had decided to obey. Good morning, he said. Thank you for lending your hearts to this building and your names to the plaques that make its hallways possible. My own family knows what it is to be kept up by machines and hands. He didn't tell the whole story. He told the honest half. We're here to fund, not miracles, but margins the hour, the instrument, the nurse who knows when a parent needs to be told to eat. Before we ask for anything, he added, we're going to listen. Music does something medicine respects. It teaches the body to remember breath. Evelyn. He stepped back. Evelyn stepped forward. Her right hand trembled micro, not macro, not performance, evidence. She looked at the front row. Maya sat there with the white lanyard, a paper sun in her pocket, and a steadiness that had nothing to do with posture. Evelyn started with Sadie again, not because it was safe, but because it was honest. The first phrase unspooled into the atrium and folded itself into the air above IV poles and donor pins, and a boy in a Batman t-shirt who had been taught by machines to fear beeps at bar 12. Evelyn's right hand tried to mutiny. She stayed. The tremor voiced itself in the note, and the note did not break. At bar 24, she let the left hand do more work, the way you do when one part of the body tells the truth before the rest can consent. She did not play fast to get it over with. She played slow so it could count. In the second piece, a simple hymn, the kind that can wear any name. Something happened that no press release could have planned. A little girl with a bandana and a sticker-bombed IV pole began to sing, quiet at first, thin-voiced, then louder because air likes to be told where to go. Her mother covered her mouth with her hand, then moved it away. The nurses didn't hush her. The camera didn't zoom. The atrium bent around the sound and held it. Evelyn missed the smallest note in the left hand and used it to slow the right so the girl could catch up. The hymn ended in unison piano, a child's voice, a body. Learning it still had room in it. No one clapped, not because they weren't allowed, but because reverence arrived and asked for a chair. Evelyn stood, looked into the lights, then down. The gratitude in her face refused to be pretty. It was useful. Thank you, she said into the mic and stepped aside. Olivia's timer ticked them forward. Perfect, she whispered, astonished that less could do more work than more. Douglas returned to the lectern. We did not bring a violinist in a sparkly dress, he said, or a celebrity to Instagram this moment. We brought our house in its better mood. A faint ripple of laughter, grace letting down its guard. He let it happen. Then continued. We're closing with a simple ask. We're redirecting our family's pledge this quarter to the autism unit, which quietly carries miracles without ever asking for a gala. We'd be honored if you joined us. It wasn't a twist so much as a straight line refused too long. He looked at the risk lead in olive. She nodded, the paperwork, already pre-cleared, because someone had done the work when no one was watching. People respected that more than they admitted. Pledge cards slid across laps. Phones vibrated as ACH transfers moved. A father in wrinkled scrubs put $20 cash on the donor desk and apologized for the bills being soft. The coordinator didn't apologize for counting them. She said, "We take all sizes." It was going, not well in the way of headline, but well in the way a heart monitor looks when the rhythm is boring and therefore perfect. Then the media found its job. Mrs. Reeves, a reporter in tasteful navy, half rose from the back, voice carrying. One question. Last week there were rumors. Olivia's finger moved toward the delay. Maya shook her head. Let it come. That a member of your household staff struck you. Today you're on stage together. Is this performative reconciliation? Evelyn didn't flinch. The old version of her would have weaponized vowels. This one checked her breath, found it, and used a sentence she could repeat without changing nouns. Anger is a fire, she said into the mic. It burned me for a long time. Someone put a hand between me and the match. It hurt. It helped. We're changing the rules in our house so dignity isn't optional or seasonal. The atrium didn't clap. It believed her, which is rarer. The reporter tried again, teeth politely sheathed. And your staff member's name? I won't use her as a shield. Evelyn said, ask me about my behavior. Ask Mr. Reeves about his policies. Ask the hospital about its funding. Leave workers out of your headline and put them in your budget. Olivia lowered her hand, blinking hard. Remy grinned at the floor so the moment wouldn't see him applaud. Afterward, backstage was a hydra gratitude. Logistics, praise, requests, receipts, and the quiet work of putting rooms back how you found them. The risk lead pressed a copy of a revised badge policy into Maya's palm. Effective this afternoon, she said, and thank you for forcing us to keep up with ourselves. A nurse with butterflies on her scrub cap touched Maya's sleeve. I'm sorry for the way the guard spoke, she said. We inherit habits we don't deserve. She held out a sticker, a blue circle with a tiny sun in the middle. For your kid. Maya took it, throat thick. She likes ones with faces. Draw her one. The nurse did, with a Sharpie and the kind of care that makes a circle look like a blessing. Douglas found them. Hair slightly wrecked by the kind of weather that happens indoors when you carry too many files. We did okay, he said, stunned that it could be that simple. We did okay. Don't get cocky, Olivia said. Ledger's already got a draft. Household's quiet reform meets quiet hymn. I'm buying that headline a drink. Evelyn reached for the piano score and found it under Maya's hand. Keep it, Maya said. For practice. Evelyn said, good, because I learned a new muscle. She made a fist, then opened it, letting go. They moved toward the exit as a family of 4 came in, a little boy in a dinosaur hoodie, a mother who had braided courage into her hair, a father who had the look of a man who would buy a car part and a judgment and install both without instructions. The boy stopped and stared at Evelyn's hands. They make the nice sound, he said. Sometimes, she said. Sometimes they fix their mistakes out loud. Maya glanced at the wall clock. ERCE. If she hurried, She could make the 105 bus to the hospital's other campus, where thanks in advance would be finishing lunch and asking if clouds got tired of raining. She texted her sister, "Lobby in 20, save me a seat near a window." Her phone buzzed again. Business trying to get in front of Grace. Agency action required. Olivia looked over her shoulder. Maya tilted the screen. Effective immediately. The message read, "Williams. Maya blacklist recommendation circulated. Pattern of insubordination. Reputational risk. Pattern. Insubordination." Words like nails smoothed to pass as fasteners. Maya felt the old elevator drop in her gut. The ride down where floors fall out. She breathed once, twice. 8. "Give me that," Olivia said. Already forwarding, already pinging Tamsin, already drafting a line that sounded like a sword hidden in a syllabus. "They can't blacklist you for refusing to swallow a lie." "They can," George said, appearing, hands in his pockets, eyes like weather. "But they won't today." Douglas Reed went still, then moved. Not the performative stride of a man about to be captured smiling in a magazine. The plain walk of someone going to his computer to end a thing without rhetoric. "We're severing with the agency," he said. "Today, we'll build direct hire and a safer pipeline." Olivia prepped the statement. "Remy, call legal." Evelyn didn't ask for permission. She stepped to Maya's side, shoulder, a deliberate inch from shoulder. "We'll fund a workers' council," she said into no microphone, into every room that needed to hear it. "Not PR. Practice." Maya nodded because nodding was how she kept from breaking in public. "I still need to catch a bus," she said. "Car takes 10. Remy said, already texting, already opening the right doors. "Go." Maya hesitated front row. "Exit Quay." The kid with the sticker. She turned to Evelyn. "Keep practicing," she said. "I will," Evelyn said. Not promising, choosing. In the atrium, the little girl with the bandana had fallen asleep in a chair, mouth open, stickers still on her gown. The hymn hung in the air, the way a good smell lingers subtle, stubborn, not taking up space it didn't rent. Maya stepped out into the cold, white lanyard warm against her neck, like a small sun that had decided to live inside fabric. The sky over the city was the kind of winter blue that makes people imagine they'll forgive each other by dinner. She counted on the walk to the curb, 1 to 1,000, 2 1 to 1,000, 3. By 8, she was in the back seat of Remy's sedan, texting. "On my way. Sunshine. Tell the clouds I'm late but not lost." Back inside, Olivia hit send on a statement that made new ground official. Effective immediately, the Reeves household will end its relationship with outside agencies and institute a direct hire model with third-party audits, posted grievance pathways, and wage transparency. Dignity isn't a rumor, it's a policy. Ledger ran with it. The Beacon followed. The agency called, legal answered. The hospital posted a photo, not of the donors, not of the piano, but of a child's hand on a plastic pinwheel and a caption that didn't try too hard, breath. By the time Maya reached the other campus, the sticker with the face was ready to be applied to a small arm. She bent, held out her wrist. "Match." "Thanks in advance," asked voice, a little bigger than last week. "Match," Maya said, pressing the circle to her skin. "Mommy," the little girl whispered, eyes serious in a way 6-year-olds should never have to be. "Did the house fall?" "No," Maya said. It learned a song. In the silence that followed, a monitor beeped a rhythm that sounded almost like Sadie, or like the sound a new rule makes when it slides into place and the building fails to crumble. Maya didn't close her eyes. She looked straight at the child she kept choosing, and the city that kept asking, then answered the only question that mattered, with the only currency she respected. She stayed. By 7 the next morning, the Reeves mansion had the pre-storm hush of a set before action. The tent was gone, the lawn rinsed clean, and the front halls smelled faintly of lemon oil and new rules. Outside, two sedans idled at the curb, one black, with a discreet compliance sticker on the passenger window, one gray with Remy taped to the dash in Sharpie like a dare. Maya beat the staff clock by 10 minutes, because 10 minutes was how she told chaos she wasn't afraid of it. She set her canvas tote on the kitchen counter notebook, fresh batteries, a roll of blue painter's tape, a Sharpie, and a folded one-page she'd written at midnight house safety and dignity day one checklist. She taped it inside the broom closet, beneath the list she'd posted earlier in the week. If you're tired, say so. If you're hungry, eat. If you're scared, tell the truth. Ideas welcome. Blame isn't. George ambled in with a newspaper rolled like a baton. The Beacon's headline is polite, he said. Ledger went earnest. The agency went quiet. Quiet is the loudest sound they make. Through the back windows, the gray sedan door opened. Olivia stepped out in dark jeans and a blazer that looked like it had closed arguments. With her came a compact man in a navy field jacket, the kind that had room for pens and evidence. He had a clipped badge on a lanyard, and the posture of someone whose job was to make buildings regret their bad habits. Rafael Cruz, he said when they met in the mudroom. Call me Rafa. Third-party compliance. We audit hotels and hospitals. This is our first mansion. Congratulations or condolences. You pick. Pick later, Olivia said. By lunch, we want two things: a basic safety map and a dignity workflow we can post. Then we carve it into policy. Rafa glanced at Maya's checklist on the broom closet door. Half my work is convincing grown-ups to write that sentence. You did it before coffee. Coffee's on, George said, handing him a mug. You'll need it. We've been running on feelings and silverware. Remy arrived. Next, a tablet under his arm, eyes lit with that caffeinated calm that meant he'd already fought 3 fires by text. Legal's ready for documents. Tamsin will want receipts. I'm here to convert. We're not monsters into... Here's the system. Maya led them to the library. The brass ship's wheel paperweight had been straightened again, as if the desk itself had finally decided what direction to face. Douglas stood by the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled, the look of a man who understood that good intentions don't count until they're scheduled. Evelyn was there too, hair loose, flats again, sheet music tucked into her tote like a talisman she was trying to earn. We're starting with 4 lanes, Olivia said, clicking up a slide on Remy's tablet and airdropping it to the room. Security, scheduling, grievances, media, they braid. If one snaps, the rope fails. Security first, Rafa said, tabletop drill at 9. Then we walk the building. Evelyn's mouth thinned. Tabletop drill, pretend emergency, he said. We find out who freezes, who fixes, and which doors lie. George chuckled. The doors gossip. I listen. Rafa grinned despite himself. Good. We'll need an interpreter. At 9, the staff gathered in the breakfast room around a spread of croissants that looked like they were trying too hard. Maya stood at the head of the table with a printed floor plan, tape, and a handful of colored dots. Security contractor Cam, the one who had shouted badges yesterday, hovered at the back, sheepish and watchful. 2 housekeepers, Sophia and Angela, took seats side by side like sisters at a wedding. The driver, Tom, leaned in the doorway, kept in hunt. The gardener, Malik, slid in late. Smell of damp earth and apology. Okay, Maya said, calm enough that people's shoulders lowered without meaning to. This is practice, not to scare you, to give your nervous system a map. Rafa, Scenario 1, Rafa said. Smoke in the kitchen, oven left on. Who calls? 911. Who hits the cutoff? Who gets the kids? Who talks to Mrs. Reeves? Who unlocks the back gate for the engine? Angela raised her hand. Tentative. I can do the cutoff. I know that panel. Good. Maya said, marking a green dot by her name. Sophia, you're with the kids if they're home. If they're not, you gather staff by the service door. We count heads. Tom. Back gate. Malik. Driveway flag. No heroics. Visibility. Cam cleared his throat. I'll apologize for yesterday later. For now, I take front door. Direct EMS. Keep cameras out. Rafa nodded. Scenario 2 media at the gate with a long lens and a rumor. Who answers? Who doesn't? Remy raised his hand without raising it. That's me. If I'm not here, it's Olivia or no one. We don't perform. We post policy later. Evelyn listened like a person hearing a language she used to understand but had forgotten the grammar of. Maya caught her eye. Scenario 3, grievance. A staff member reports an insult or an unsafe ask. Where do they go? Silence tried to move in. Maya didn't let it. She pointed to the corner where she'd taped a cardboard box with a slit written grievances English Espanol. Next to it, a clipboard with a form, date, time, what happened, who was there, what you want to happen next. Above it, a copy of the new contact. Third-party ombuds unnegative 800. 2 doors, Maya said. In-house with me and outside with the ombuds. Either way, you won't be punished for using your voice. A hand rose near the back. Malik, what about jokes? He asked. You know the kind that start with, where are you really from? Or you people. Folks don't put those on forms. They swallow them and go home angry. The room stilled. Shame sniffing for a chair. Evelyn looked at her hands. Douglas took a breath. We write them down, Maya said. Little cuts bleed. We log them. Patterns matter. If someone says you people, we teach them which people. If they keep at it, they don't work here. Her voice didn't go sharp. It went certain. Angela nodded, surprised to find her eyes hot. George slid the box a little closer to the door, so no one would have to cross the room under scrutiny to use it. Rafa checked his watch. Walk through, he said. Bring tape. They moved through the house like a small, purposeful weather system. The pantry got a new fire blanket. Maya taped a label, pull, cover, breathe. The basement door got a no storage in stairwell sign because boxes like to commit petty crimes when no one's looking. The alarm panel by the mudroom got 3 laminated cards, color-coded fire, gas, medical, with bullet steps. No one would forget under adrenaline. In the hallway outside the primary suite, Rafa stopped. A locked cabinet, small and discreet as a sin. What's this? Files, Douglas said. Old HR from before the agency contracts. NDAs. Rafa glanced at Olivia. She nodded. Open it. Douglas did. Inside, a banker's neat future of the past folders tabbed with names Maya didn't know, and some she did. One caught her eye like a fly in amber. Torres. Lucianda 2019. The margin sported a post-it with a tidy E in the corner. Evelyn stared as if someone had opened a door to a room she'd blocked from memory. Her voice thinned. She broke a glass, and I made a mountain out of it. I called the agency. I had her sign that. I thought it was the kind way. Money instead of a story. Rafa slid on gloves from his pocket like a magician whose trick was honesty. He scanned the first page. This is a gag, he said, not a mutual agreement. It bars her from speaking about conditions, grievances, anything. That's how patterns hide. He held up a second folder. Thanks in advance N. Another name. The house had decided not to remember. A third, Mariazze, underneath. A color photograph, a staged staff portrait from a gala year, all smiles and matching aprons. Maya counted faces and then counted name. Two didn't match. People who'd been erased but still showed up in ink. We'll notify them, Douglas said, voice quiet but ironed. Our council will offer rescission. He looked at Evelyn, not to shame, but to bind. We're not paying for silence anymore. We're paying for repair. Evelyn didn't try to cry. She didn't deserve tears for this. Find them, she said. I'll call. Not legal. Me? Olivia snapped a photo of the cabinet with the camera that lived in her memory. This is a scene, she said, but we won't leak it. We'll write the policy at births. Rafa closed the drawer gently, as if soft-handed shame made less noise. Good, he said. Now show me the service stairs. People get tired there. On the landing where the kids like to eavesdrop, Maya stopped at the camera dome. She remembered the day the technician had rewound footage and Truth had stepped into the hallway. She touched the plaster. We'll put a sign here, she said. The review footage to protect. Not to punish. It felt small. It felt correct. Back downstairs. Vendors began to arrive for routine deliveries. Linen. Produce. A florist with buckets of peonies that had learned to apologize by scent. The microaggressions started like gnats. Where's your supervisor? The linen driver asked Maya, eyes sliding past her to find a man. I have to sign with the boss. You just did, Maya said. Signing. If you prefer, we can cancel the account. I'm busy. He chuckled like he thought she was doing a bit. Remy stepped in and did the quiet version of menace. We don't do bits, he said. We do contracts. Keep the jokes for your steering wheel. The produce guy tried a different flavor. Kitchen staff changes a lot in these houses, he said to George, not to Maya. Hard to keep up. Not anymore, George said, and let the silence make the point. At 11, Tamsin texted spreadsheet fell off a truck. A link to a redacted file appeared. Agency Internal Risk Index. Columns of name, color bands. Notes like landmines. Williams. M. Assertive. Boundary issues. Clientele optics risk. Torres. L. Incident broken stemware. Recommended phase out. N. Thanks in advance rumors. Non-compliant posture. Non-compliant posture. Olivia repeated, showing Douglas and Evelyn the screen, their rating backbone like contraband. Send it to me, Douglas said. Legals teed up. He looked at Maya. We'll file complaint and notify the AG. Do it, Maya said, surprising herself with how easy it was to say now. Rafa checked his watch. Grievance box. He asked Maya. She opened it. 2 folded slips already. Angela's neat hand. When vendors ask for the man to sign, it makes my work small. Malik's block letters crew leader called me son yesterday. I am 42. Maya felt her face burn, not with exposure, with purpose. First 2 items, she said. We'll handle by 3. Vendors will sign the new conduct sheet before they roll a card in. Write it, Olivia said. I'll print. Maya wrote. Vendor code of conduct required to enter. Address staff by name or role, not stereotype. Confirm with posted SOPs. Do not invent rules. No recording staff without consent. Disrespect gleich removal. Repeat disrespect is gelijk aan account closure. She added a line at the bottom because she still believed in doors that opened both ways. If we fail you, tell us. We fix what we can see. By noon, the house had a skeleton of a system. By 1215, a new microaggression tried to set it on fire. The agency called the main line. Sophia answered, went pale, and handed the phone to Douglas without words. He listened. His jaw found a new square. "No," he said at last, "you may not retaliate against former employees for talking to the press. No, you may not contact staff at home. Yes, you may expect a letter." He hung up, looked at Maya. "They threatened to review your profile." They already reviewed it." Maya said. "They don't like the font." Evelyn reached into her tote and pulled out a checkbook. The old reflex. How much to make them go away? "Money is why they think they can do this," Olivia said, gently pulling the checkbook back. Like someone taking matches from a toddler. "Policy is how we end it." A ping from the driveway camera interrupted the doctrine. "Unexpected visitor," Remy said, eyes on the tablet feed. "Mid-size SUV, out-of-state plates, no PR flag." The bell rang the way. Bells ring in good houses when they finally earn their jobs. George went to the door because dignity is a ritual, and he'd been officiating longer than the rest of them had been pretending. The woman on the stoop wore a spring jacket too thin for March, and a face that had learned patience on a budget. She clutched a tote like it contained the story the house never wanted to hear. Behind her, a boy of 8 and a girl of 5, each carried a library book as if it were a passport. "May I help you?" George asked. The woman's eyes slid past him and found Maya as if gravity had been redirected. "I'm looking for Miss Williams," she said. "My name is Lucia Torres." The room rearranged itself around the name. Maya stepped forward, heart doing a thing that felt like standing up too fast and realizing it was only the floor coming to meet you. "Ms. Torres," she said. "Thank you for." Lucia shook her head. "I got a letter yesterday from a lawyer who said I could talk." "I don't want to talk to a lawyer. You want to talk to the house," Evelyn said quietly from the hallway, as if she were just then learning how to speak inside her own walls. "Come in." Lucia hesitated on the threshold, kids in tow, pride in one hand, memory in the other. She looked at Maya, not for permission, but for a read on the room. "It's different," Maya said. "Not perfect. Different enough to try." Lucia crossed the line. The little boy's eyes went wide at the chandelier. The little girl's hand found the curve of Maya's skirt, like gravity had manners. George took their coats with the same respect he gave donors, because coats don't care what name you use when you're cold. In the library, they sat Douglas at the edge of a chair like the floor might ask for a story. Evelyn with both feet planted, Olivia with a pen, Remy with the tablet, Rafa leaning against the mantel, as if mantelpieces had ever held anything heavier than declarations. "I broke 2 flutes. Lucia began, simple as bread. "Crystal. I offered to pay. Mrs. Reeves told me to sign a paper instead. I signed because my mother was sick and I needed the money. After, the agency stopped calling me. I work nights now at a grocery. My son, he keeps asking why I don't dress nice anymore." Evelyn flinched. It was not performative. It was what happens when the body recognizes a scene and rejects its old lines. "Em. Sorry," Evelyn said, the words strange and right on her tongue. "I can't unbreak what I did. I can undo the paper, and we can fix what we can fix with money and with names." Lucia no de donce, as if she had known that sentence would arrive, and had rehearsed, not crying when it did. "I didn't come for an apology," she said. "I came to bring this back." She reached into her tote and withdrew a folded copy of the NDA with her maiden's signature like a scar at the bottom. She set it on the desk. "I don't want your paper in my house." Douglas slid the rescission letter across. "Keep this one," he said. "It says the paper never existed. And work." Maya added, "Because help without dignity is charity, and charity is a shape that looked like a hand on the wrong face. If you want hours, We have them. With policy, Lucia's son pointed at the brass ship's wheel. Is that for pirates? For not getting lost, George said. Lucia managed a laugh that sounded like a door unjamming. I can work, she said. 3 days. Morning shift. Start tomorrow. Maya said, bring the kids for the paperwork. We'll put the kettle on. Olivia's phone buzzed. She glanced, eyes widening. She held it up for Maya to see Beacon Braking Agency's blacklist exposed. Reeves announced direct hire overhaul. Under the headline, a photo not of chandeliers, not of a piano, but of a cardboard box with a slit and a sharpied sign WRITDN grievances. Who leaked that? Remy asked, half wary, half proud. Tamsin, Olivia said, with your blessing? Indirectly. She took a picture of the idea, not a person. She's quoting Rafa on dignity as a system. Rafa shrugged. I like the quote. It's true. The house, which had learned to inhale without bracing, exhaled. The chandelier didn't shiver. The floor didn't tilt. Outside, the afternoon made an ordinary light. In the kitchen, Maya scrawled 2 more lines on the bottom of the posted policy in the broom closet. If we fix a thing, we write it down. If we miss a thing, we invite the correction. She capped the marker, felt the fine tremor in her fingers, and let it be evidence, not weakness. Her phone buzzed. A photo from her sister. Thanks in advance in a hospital bed. Conquered by stickers. Today's sticker had a face that looked like the sun and a caption in wobbly pen, Mommy, I'm counting. Maya texted back, me too. Then she put the phone away, picked up a stack of clean towels, and carried them where they belonged. In the hallway, Evelyn stood with Lucia, heads tilted over the rescission letter. 2 women reading a document that released breath. Neither of them knew they'd been holding for years. Douglas watched from the library doorway, not as a savior, not as a judge, but as a man who had decided that decent is a verb. Rafa closed his notebook. Tabletop went well, he said to Olivia. Now we see if the house remembers its lines when no one is filming. It will, Olivia said, surprising herself with the certainty. It has a stage manager now. Maya passed them with the towels. She didn't stop for applause. She didn't need it. In the pantry, she labeled a shelf, staff, snacks, no shame. In the service hall, she taped a small sign near the camera dome. We're not looking for villains, we're looking for failures we can fix. And in her chest, something unclenched. Not all at once, not forever, but enough to make space for a breath she hadn't had since the day she took a job in a house that thought marble could be kinder than people. At 3, she opened the grievance box again. Another slip waited, in neat cursive, unsigned. Thank you for putting names on the doors. We were afraid to open. Maya slid the note into her pocket. Some receipts are for ledgers. No one else gets to see. By dusk, the audit's first report sat on Douglas's desk. Bullet points and timelines, and 3 small victories circled in green. The doorbell chimed once. Twice neighbors, bringing over the kind of casseroles money usually orders out for. The house took them into its kitchen and pretended it had always known how to be a home. On the back porch, the bench remembered 2 women from the previous night and made room for 1 more. Maya sat, the pink handkerchief warm under her wrist, and looked up through the lace of wisteria at a sky that was joining the evening without drama. Her phone buzzed with a voice memo, thanks in advance. Brave and small. Hi, Mommy. The thunder is quiet. I think it's listening. Me too, Maya whispered, and for once, the house didn't argue. It listened, like it had taken the audit into its beams and decided to keep what didn't hurt. Inside, someone started a song on the piano and didn't stop at the hard bar. The note wasn't perfect. It didn't have to be. It was present, and in this house, present had become policy. By late afternoon, the sky over St. Bartholomew's Children's looked like a bedsheet hung to dry thin light. Honest shadows, no tricks. Inside, the atrium buzzed the way lobbies do before a gala, volunteers in lilac cardigans aligning name tags, a caterer negotiating with a fire marshal whose badge was allergic to extension cords, a quartet tuning in a corner where echoes pretended to be a bigger audience. Maya arrived with a rolling tote and a list. Olivia had secured guest passes the size of modest billboards. Raphael had pre-walked the exits and taped small, kind signs. Quiet, please, naps are medicine on doors. Most events forgot were holding pain. Remy staged the press pen behind a velvet rope and reminded a local stringer that off the record isn't a coupon. Douglas came in through the revolving door without a jacket. The wind had combed his hair into something boyish and unguarded. He held 2 manila folders, one for remarks, one for the thing that had woken him at 3 a.m. Paper that meant money and policy instead of apology. Housekeeping, he said to Maya, their shorthand now for the work that keeps rooms from lying. We're redirecting the discretionary fund to the autism unit equipment, family housing, travel vouchers. I'll say it on stage. Maya's hand tightened on the tote handle. Thank you, she said, the words plain, because some thank yous are bricks. Not bows, not charity, he said. Balance. Evelyn arrived a minute later in a black dress with sleeves she could push to her elbows and flats that told the room she'd come to work, not perform. She carried her sheet music in a scuffed leather folder with her maiden initials E.L. Like a promise she was still allowed to keep. You're early, she told the piano. The piano, a polished Steinway that had seen more hope than Carnegie, said nothing. She placed Sadie on the stand, then switched to Debussy, then back again, as if the choice were a confession. A nurse wheeled past with a boy asleep under a dinosaur blanket. Evelyn's hands still. She didn't touch her notebook. She didn't have it. Front row, she said to Maya without looking up. If I falter, you lift your chin and lie to me with your eyes. I don't lean nice, Maya said. Good. Evelyn answered. Tell me. I can keep going. The first microaggression of the night wore a blazer with a donor pin, and the posture of a man who forgot hospitals were not country clubs. Excuse me, he said to Maya at the registration table, eyes snagging on her staff badge. Can you fetch Mr. Reeves' assistant? I need to discuss the donor wall. We were promised second column, above the fold. I'm Mr. Reeves' household coordinator, Maya said evenly. Olivia handles program and donor placement. I don't need catering. He interrupted with a laugh that had been field-tested on bank tellers. I need decisions. Olivia materialized like a fact. Decisions are right here, she said, sliding between him and Maya. The wall is alphabetical. We promised equity, not height. Raphael, nearby, added the gentlest bar of steel. And we don't discuss above the fold within earshot of oncology. The man glanced at the nurse's station, flinched at his own reflection in the glass, and decided retreat was gracious. People forget where they are, Olivia said under her breath. They remember when someone tells them, Maya said back. A security guard approached then, young, eager, a little too keyed up on the romance of a badge. He blocked Maya halfway to the backstage corridor. Back of house is for staff, he said, chin notch, tone official. His eyes flicked from her face to her skin and landed wrongly on the idea that she didn't belong where decisions rehearsed. I am staff, Maya said, holding up her badge. He didn't look. Staging is restricted. Volunteers use the south elevator. Remy stepped in. The rope line's diplomatic passport. We good, officer. The guard looked past Remy for a more familiar authority and found Douglas instead. Douglas took in the geometry, the guard, the rope, Maya at the fulcrum, and understood the problem wasn't the corridor. It was the default. She goes where I go, he said. Not a flourish, a map. The guard colored. My mistake. Correct it. Then, Raphael said, not unkind, say her name. The guard swallowed. Ms. Williams, my mistake. Accept it. Maya said. She could feel the temptation to turn this into a speech. She didn't. Not here. Not with a dinosaur blanket rounding a corner. She slipped past. The corridor opening the way doors do, when you refuse to let them narrate you. Backstage, a woman in a navy pantsuit checked a clipboard, with the brisk economy of a person who had wrangled surgeons into speeches and egos into philanthropy. I'm Claudia. Hospital events, she said, the kind of introduction that doesn't ask for yours. Then she looked at Maya and softened. Your daughter's nurse told me you'd be here. There's a seat by the aisle if you need a quick exit, and a box of tissues under the chair, but don't tell anyone. It ruins my brand. Maya smiled despite the knot in her throat. Thank you. The gratitude felt like the kind you give strangers who become the first sentence in a better chapter. Remy's phone buzzed. 3 tones. His code for incoming mess. He glanced and went still. A tabloid site splashing the edited gala slap again, now under a headline that managed to fit maid and mistress and meltdown in 10 ugly words. The clip had been trimmed to a cruelty. Evelyn's hand in the air. Cut. Maya's palm connecting. Cut. Frozen frame on shot. No sound. No context. No house learning anything. The byline, a freelancer the agency liked to hire when it wanted to launder malice through public interest. Tamsin's on it, he said to Olivia. We dropped the policy thread in 5 grievance box. Rescinded NDAs. Vendor code. We don't dunk. We teach. And legal. Douglas asked. AG's office got our complaint at noon. Olivia said, they'll move when moving helps. Right now, we feed the truth, not the trolls. Evelyn stepped to the piano bench, back straight, chin lifted an inch less than pride, and an inch more than apology. Her hands hovered, then landed on Sadie, not Debussy. She took it slower than recordings, faster than grief. And on the 3rd bar, a place she used to stop, she didn't. She kept going. Even when a wrong note arrived like an old habit, she didn't flinch. She rounded the mistake and made it part of the road. In the front row, Maya lifted her chin, not a lie, a lighthouse. Halfway through, Evelyn looked up and caught 2 things at once. The quiet leaning of nurses in doorways, and Maya's small, exact nod. That meant, keep going. A child in a wagon rolled by, eyes huge, parents exhausted. The child lifted a hand and waved as if the music had asked permission to sit. Evelyn waved back with her eyes and finished the phrase with a dignity that sounded like forgiveness. The last note landed, not applause. First breath. Then the room remembered its hands. Claudia crossed to the lectern. Thank you, Mrs. Reeves, she said, voice steady enough to hold the atrium. Tonight we fund the unglamorous miracle beds for parents who shouldn't have to sleep in cars. Monitors that blink, yes, instead of maybe. A family kitchen where broth counts as medicine. Douglas took his place with the manila folder and didn't look at it. When my father was sick, he said, a nurse told me the truth in 8 words. Hope is a team sport. Show up and pass the ball. We've spent years building wings and naming plaques. Tonight, we fund what keeps families upright. He announced the redirect, not as benevolence, but as correction. If you can give, give. If all you can do is listen and say someone's name right, you've already started. He looked at Maya for half a second. a little lost boy in his face. And then he looked at the room and became the man who had decided decent is a verb. Applause rose. The good kind. The kind that admits it doesn't fix anything and claps anyway because standing is a skill. Between speeches, a woman in a dark skirt and agency lanyard slipped to the edge of the press pen and flashed a shark smile. "Ms. Williams," she called softly, voice pitched for shame. "Quick word. Our regional director sent me internal review. Nothing to worry about." Maya felt the old muscle in her neck tighten. Flight. Freeze. The ways women stay polite in the face of the thing that wants them small. She turned, not toward the woman, but toward the people who mattered. "Olivia," she said. Olivia joined her like an answer. "If it's internal, you can email counsel," she told the woman. "If it's nothing to worry about, you can go." The woman held her smile like a weapon. "We're simply clarifying Miss Williams' status. There's been chatter she's stepping outside her role." "My role is to make rooms safe," Maya said. "We have a policy now. You can read Ms. Williams," the woman said as if scheduling a dental cleaning. "Be careful what you sign your name to. The industry is small." Raphael appeared on Maya's other side, compliance badge visible. "And the law is large," he said. "We see your blacklist. We've filed." The woman's smile fell off her face, like a sticker losing its glue. "We'll be in touch." "Don't," Olivia said. "We'll be in court." The woman melted into the crowd, her lanyard suddenly heavy. A nurse slipped up behind Maya and touched her elbow soft. "Conspiratorial. We've got a room on 7 with a night shift karaoke machine," she whispered. "If you ever need to scream where it's allowed." Maya laughed. "The sound and oxygen mask?" "Thank you," she said. "I might." Claudia reappeared with a wireless mic that looked like a dare. "We're going to try something different," she announced, cutting through the between-song murmur. "Tonight, we're naming the invisible. I'm inviting Mrs. Reeves back to the piano and, if she'll allow it, Ms. Williams to join her." A ripple, a quick, collective intake, as the room recalibrated what tonight would mean to the story people tell about houses like this and women like them. Evelyn glanced at Maya. Question. Risk. Invitation. Maya nodded once. She didn't know what the thing would be. She knew why it mattered. They stood side by side at the piano. Not a duet, the keys belonged to one, the room to the other. Evelyn spoke first into the mic, voice low enough to feel like a confession to all and to none. "I have used this instrument for performance and for walls. Tonight, I'm using it for a door. I was wrong about many things, about people whose names I shouldn't have forgotten. We rescind the papers that kept them quiet. We're funding the things that let families stand. I'm learning, and that is not an excuse. It's homework." She stepped back. Maya took the mic and held it the way nurses hold thermometers briefly, with respect for what's measured. "We all live in rooms," she said. "Some are made of marble and some of IV pole, and most are made of sentences we inherited. Who belong, who doesn't, which door to knock on, who is allowed to be loud. My daughter is upstairs on 6, learning to be brave in her sleep. I'm learning in my shoes. Tonight we're not asking for applause. We're asking for a kind of quiet that listens and shows up later when the cameras decide breakfast is boring. That's where the miracle happens. In the boring, a hush fell, the thick kind, not empty. It had weight and windows. Evelyn sat and played Sadie again. Slower now, each note placed like a dish in a kitchen where kindness had become policy. On the last chord, she lifted her hands and didn't look to the room for permission to stop. She looked to Maya, who didn't nod this time. She smiled. Applause. Yes, but more than that, a shifting, a recalibration of who gets to speak for what a house is. After, the atrium filled with small conversations that matter more than big checks. A respiratory therapist told Douglas she could fix 3 bottlenecks with 2 cart purchases and a whiteboard. He wrote it down and didn't hand the idea to a committee. A father in a faded hoodie thanked Evelyn without explaining why. She didn't ask. A janitor with forearms like patience told Raphael where the building lied about airflow on Sundays. Rafa changed the filter schedule with a pen. Maya slipped away for a quick upstairs minute because love needs proof that isn't metaphor. On 6, a nurse with a purple braid was tucking a blanket around thanks in advance, who slept with her fist unclenched, the paper crown on the bedside table like a benediction. She was asking if houses can be brave. The nurse whispered. They can, Maya said. When the people inside decide to be back in the atrium, Remy was fielding a new problem with the resigned joy of a man who has chosen his battlefield. A process server, blue blazer, briefcase like a stage prop, had shown up with papers for Reeves' household. Maya Williams, et al., a lawsuit with a long Latin title and a short intent scare. Smear, stall, service accepted, Remy said pleasantly, taking the envelope. This is a hospital. Try not to make a scene. The man puffed himself up the way geese do when they mistake pond for courtroom. She's named, he insisted, pointing at Maya like he'd spotted a deer out of season. I need to hand it. Raphael stepped in with the kind of smile that made judges remember who pays the lights. She's going to the elevator to see her kid, he said. You hand that to me, or you hand it to the recycling bin. The man blinked, recalibrated, surrendered the envelope with a flourish intended for a wider audience. There wasn't one. The volunteers were busy labeling leftovers staff only and shooing donors toward the exits with cookies. Olivia slid the packet into her tote like a voucher for a movie she refused to see. Let them file, she told Remy. We've got policy and receipts. Tamsin will write the explainer, How to Weaponize Paper and Lose. Douglas joined them, reading Remy's face the way CEOs learn to read markets. Bad, he asked. Predictably, Remy said. We'll answer, we'll win. We'll try not to look smug doing it. Evelyn approached. A little pale, a lot upright. How did I do? She asked Maya, embarrassing herself on purpose as practice. You finished, Maya said. That's better than perfect. Evelyn nodded. It was enough. They headed for the revolving door in a small cluster that looked in a different movie, like the end of a heist, the crew exiting with the only thing worth stealing. In this one, nobody had pockets big enough for what mattered. At the curb, a reporter who had chosen humanity over heat jogged up, notepad out but not weaponized. She addressed Maya first. Ms. Williams, one question, she said. What do you call tonight? Maya thought of the cardboard grievance box, the vendor code taped to a door, Lucia's daughter clutching a library book at a marble threshold, a process server with a goose's posture, a nurse with a purple braid, a piano that had finally decided it wasn't a wall. Practice, she said. We're practicing being the kind of people the building deserves. The reporter wrote it down like a headline that wouldn't sell papers and might save a day. On the ride back, the city slid past brick, scaffolding, glass, catching the last light. Maya leaned her head against the window, palm on the pink handkerchief, like a habit she'd survived and kept. You did good, George said from the bench seat, as if he'd been there all along. And maybe he had the house inside, each of them carrying the bench they'd needed. We did, Maya said. She didn't add for now. She didn't need to. The road, like the piece Evelyn had finally finished, would have another hard bar tomorrow. They'd count to it together, back at the mansion. The foyer was calm in a way that wasn't performative. The hydrangeas didn't need adjusting to prove anyone was in charge. On the bulletin board, someone had tacked up a photocopy of the vendor code of conduct with a doodled star next to address staff by name. Under it, a new note in Sophia's tidy hand. "We see you. Sign here." 6 signatures already. Maya paused at the broom closet and added one more line to the bottom of the policy. "When we finish the hard part, we start the next one." She capped the marker and listened, not for ghosts or gossip, for the sound a house makes when it decides to learn. It was small, and it was enough. The piano in the next room playing the first bars again, slower still, and not stopping where it used to. Morning arrived like a clerk with a cart orderly, inevitable, a little too bright. The mansion had the quiet hum of a building that had learned one new rule and was trying not to forget it. On the service board, the vendor code of conduct hung like a fresh coat of paint. Someone had underlined "no retaliation" and drawn a tiny shield beside it. The shield wore a smile. Maya was in the pantry by 6, relabeling bins with Olivia's crisp font, line counted. Candles, fire code. Okay. First aid check. EXP 06-2026. The small bureaucracy of dignity soothed her. You can fix a day one label at a time. You can also lose it with one whisper. Whispers found her before coffee did. Sophia slipped in from the back hall with eyes that said she'd read 10 emails before breakfast. They filed, she breathed, agency, and one of the donors. Tortious interference, defamation, breach of some clause I can't pronounce. And my cousin says there's a petition to the board to restore standards. They kid the city social page like it's a legal department. Maya didn't flinch. Paper has learned to roar. Olivia up. Since forever, Sophia said. Remy sent a meme at 4 a.m. A gavel with a clown nose. Rafa wants everyone to breathe on a 5-count. George arrived with the newspaper tucked under his arm and a bandage on his thumb, paper cut. The literal kind. They spelled your name wrong, he reported, which is both a blessing and an insult. Both travels well, Maya said. Douglas walked in tieless, shirt sleeves already rolled, the look of a man who had traded sleep for a moral inventory. He placed a stack of printed emails on the island. Face up, nothing hidden. We've got 4 fronts, he said. No preamble, legal, PR, operations, and the thing that isn't on any flowchart. He looked at Maya. Weather. She nodded. Where do you want me? Operations and weather, he said. Olivia's got PR. Remy and Rafa will triage the legal with counsel. Evelyn. He glanced toward the ceiling where a single piano note sounded as if trying on bravery. Evelyn's talking to the board at 10. Here, Maya asked. At the foundation office, he said. But she asked for a draft, a 1-page on our procedures, why we're not a circus, why we're going to stay that way. Maya's spine straightened, not from fear, from purpose. I can give her a policy, not a plea. Good, he said. Also, the agency tried to suspend Lucia for giving a press quote to Tamsin. She never did. It was anonymized and generic. They didn't care. Olivia's asking the AG's office whether blacklists count as racketeering if you squint. Not if you squint, Raphael said from the doorway. Compliance badge already clipped. Energy like coffee. If you read, he set down a folder, templated affidavits for staff who wanted to document microaggressions and policy violations without writing their own novels. If they weaponize paper, we'll use ours as a shield. First up, declarations. Timed, factual, no adjectives. Then an addendum, what caused harm and what fixed it. Courts love causation. So do hearts. Sophia exhaled. Hearts rarely file. They testify, Rafa said. Usually in kitchens. Remy slid in. Hair ungovernable. Laptop open to a tweet thread that was somehow both educational and petty. We're not punching down. We're punching scalpel, he said. Tamsin's thread is live. From gala clip to better policy, how not to be a trash boss. We threaded the grievance box, the vendor code, the NDAs. We quoted the hospital's security policy. No staff cornered, no private reprimands in public corridors. And we cold replied the agency's lanyard goblin with a link to the AG complaint. Calm. Receipts, commas. Where God intended, if they want to fight, they'll have to study first. Study is kryptonite. George observed. The intercom crackled. The tone everyone hated, the one Evelyn used when she didn't trust her feet. Kitchen, came her voice. Steady, formal. Breakfast meeting 10 minutes, and we're trying the waffles again. Maya suppressed a smile. War and waffles. America in a sentence. They gathered in the kitchen because rooms remember what you used them for. The iron hissed obediently, a little battered from yesterday's lessons. The batter rested, the syrup rationed by the newly elected Minister of Fair Pours. The girl had made a badge. Evelyn stood at the island with a legal pad. Not leather, and a pen. Hair pulled back, sleeves at her elbows. She looked like a woman taking minutes for the life she wanted next. All right, she said, a little breathy, then stronger. Agenda. 1 legal. 2 operations. 3 communications. 4 children. She caught herself. Altered course. 4 human. The hierarchy is finally right, Remy murmured. She shot him a look that meant, don't get smug, and then softened it on purpose. Remy, 1 sentence. 3. He negotiated, then pointed at his own mouth like a child asking to go to the bathroom. We do not litigate on the timeline of trolls. We post the policy, not the pain. We keep the receipts Marble can read. Good, Evelyn said. Raphael, affidavits by noon. Complaint supplement by 2. Every email we send to the agency CC's counsel and the AG's office. If they sneeze, we bless them in triplicate. Olivia. Statement at 9. Olivia replied. Scrolling. Tone. We're busy doing the work. Sympathetic. Not apologetic. Grace for who needs it. Edge for who earned it. 1 press sit down later this week. Not 3. We pick the outlet that will fact-check. We feed them policy and names, not gossip. Operations, Evelyn said, turning to Maya. Maya slid a 1-page across the island. The title was dull on purpose: Household Procedure Safety. Scheduling and speech. Beneath it, bullets with verbs that made rooms less cruel. Briefings at shift start. Goal name hazards. Align tasks. Confirm who is in the building. Open door corrections. If a mistake is made, we correct it in the room the mistake lives in. No corners, no closets, no theatrics. 2-person rule for volatile requests. No one meets alone with anyone during escalation. We are not heroes. We are a team. Name tags for everyone, including vendors and friends of the house. The walls will learn our names. No private devices for work comms. Stop pretending texts are policy. We centralize and archive. Stop the room if harm happens. Anyone can say it. The script is 2 words. Pause. Please. We resume when safety does. The last line was tired of hiding. Retaliation is theft. We will treat it that way. Evelyn read it with her jaw set and her eyes soft. This goes to the board, she said, and to the agency, and to the little newsletter the PTA reads like scripture. She looked up, and to the staff group chat, I wasn't invited to, but have somehow found my way into. Yes, Sophia, I see things. Sophia went pink and smiled. We called it the Marble Mouths. She confessed, rename it. Evelyn said, the people who make Tuesdays work. Douglas took the page, scanned it like he used to scan term sheets, and nodded once. Crisp. This is the spine, he said. We'll add muscle. The waffle iron beeped. A tiny, domestic applause. The boy pounced. The girl regulated. For 3 minutes, law and PR and weather yielded to butter. Evelyn set her fork down and stood. I have to go tell a room of people who still think charity is glamour that we're going to be boring for a while, she said. If I falter, we. Not I, Maya said. And you can falter, just don't lie. Evelyn met her eyes and smiled, like gratitude had learned to move without begging. Don't let the house unlearn what it learned last night, she said. We won't, Maya answered. At 9, the mansion's front gate clanked. A gray sedan slid in like a thought no one wanted to think. Process servers again, but classier. This one wore a pocket square. Raphael met them on the gravel with the discourteous courtesy that makes bullies blink. Service accepted, he said. You are on camera. This is a residence. If you try to hand paper to anyone not on the caption, we'll file. If you try to hand paper to a child, I will stop being polite. Pocket Square blinked. We don't, you do, Raphael said, and took the envelope. Now you don't. Remy filmed not for the internet. For memory. We're not content, he muttered. We're evidence. Back inside. Maya was mid-briefing with the vendors, florist, tent crew, HVAC tech, whose boots had seen worse roofs and better bosses. Name tags, she said, handing them out. You call us by ours, we call you by yours. We de-escalate before noon. If you feel a storm, say pause, please. We stop. We don't die on the hill of canapes. The florist, a Lebanese woman with kind eyes and arms like a boxer, nodded. In my shop, we say, we can be kind faster. Steal that, George advised, and wrote it on a post-it above the coffee maker. The first microaggression of the day arrived in a cream blouse and a cheery voice that split the difference between compliment and condescension. A bored spouse, the kind who had learned philanthropy as choreography. I just love how you people are so resilient, she told Sophia, admiring the hydrangeas as if they'd done the work. It's a gift. Really? I envy it. Sophia blinked. You mean you staff? She said, eyebrows up, tone sugar. Resilient is what we call ourselves when we are paid fairly. When we aren't, we call it exhaustion. Cream blouse flushed. Oh, I didn't. We know, Maya said, moving in like a bridge. Let me walk you through the layout so you can brag about the airflow to the right people. Olivia, from the doorway, sent Maya a look that mixed thank you and I owe you an espresso. Microaggressions were like fruit flies. You could swat all morning, or you could take out the trash. By 10, Evelyn was downtown, a conference room with a view that thought it was a handshake. Douglas was in the library with counsel, calm enough to listen, flinty enough to reject the pay and hush option before the sentence finished building itself. Maya took her 1-hour window for the hospital. Routine is not selfish. It is oxygen. She spotted thanks in Advance's paper crown, immediately taped back together, bravely crooked. A physical therapist was coaxing tiny ankles through a set of motions that looked like dance and hurt like progress. Mommy, thanks in advance, whispered the word a small sunrise. Hi, sunshine, Maya said. I brought you a joke. What do you call a bear with no teeth? Thanks in advance, tried to smile and failed. What? A gummy bear. A real smile. There and gone. Enough to count. The therapist rolled her eyes like mercy. You're back on the schedule at 2, she told Maya. We're trying the stairs. 1 step counts as 2. Maya kissed a forehead and promised to return with a better joke. In the elevator down, a woman in scrubs caught her eye over the mask. Saw the clip, the woman said. Saw the thread. Saw the code on your board. Don't stop. I'm not a revolution, Maya answered. You're a policy, the woman said. That's more dangerous. Back at the house, a different storm gathered. The agency's regional director, no lanyard goblin, this one arrived in a navy suit and a smile that had been to finishing school with a knife. She had two younger associates in her wake, both with tablets out, both taking notes like apprentices to a certain theater. Mr. Reeves, she said at the threshold, extending a hand like a subpoena. Vivian Parr, we're here to resolve our little misunderstanding. Douglas didn't invite her in. He stepped out onto the stone. Let the weather be on his side. The misunderstanding was believing you owned my house, he said. You don't. Vivian laughed. We own the relationships that make your life possible. No, he said. We rent them. From people who have names. She leaned, as if sharing a secret with a co-conspirator. Come now. This is a high-demand market. We're offering to move past last week's scene, quietly, but we'll need assurances. The maid stays out of view. Your wife refrains from performative apologies. You return to normal. We all do. That's how this works. Performative apologies, Evelyn said from behind him. She had returned early, and the look on her face made the word performative retire out of embarrassment. I owe the world non-performative repentance. Vivian didn't turn. Mrs. Reeves, of course, we would hate to see your foundation dragged into unnecessary controversy. Then stop dragging, Remy said, appearing somewhere to the side like a ghost in a denim jacket. Also, we've CC'd the AG, and OSHA, and your VC backer, who will not love that you call black women the maid on porches. Vivian finally looked at Maya. The smile vanished. The knife didn't. Ms. Williams, your file is thin. We can fix that. A lateral move to another home. A small premium. Hush the blog talk. You're young. Don't burn bridges over a season. Maya remembered the elevator nurse. You're a policy. She remembered thanks in advance's ankles, stubborn and trembling. She remembered the waffle iron beeping like a new heart. My bridges go where my dignity does, she said. We'll stay warm. Vivian cocked her head. You think these people will keep you when the tide turn? Maya didn't look at Douglas. She didn't have to. I keep me, she said. They can join. Vivian turned on a heel. You'll hear from us, she said. We already have. Olivia called from the doorway, waving a printout. And so has the AG. And so has a reporter who prefers receipts to adjectives. Have a good day. Ms. Parr. Vivian walked back to the car with her associates. Neither opened her door. Power sometimes forgets it has hands. Evelyn let out a breath and leaned against the column in a way that wasn't poise so much as relief. I did not threaten her, she observed, as if reporting her own vital signs. This is new. Maya nodded. So is policy. New things take practice. At noon, the household procedure went live. PDF on the foundation site. Printed copies on clipboards by the kitchen. Laminated versions with holes punched for hooks. It was boring and beautiful. Rafa filed the affidavits. Remy posted the receipts. Olivia did a radio spot with a host who asked questions like a grown-up and listened for the answers. George taped a second post-it above the coffee maker, "Be kind faster." The house exhaled into the kind of afternoon that only looks calm from far away. Up close, it was choice's little ones that decide who you are when the big ones arrive. Choice. The intercom buzzed with a guest at the gate, a city councilman who liked to be photographed near good deeds. Olivia answered and said the donors' lounge was full. It wasn't. It soon would be with volunteers. Choice. A neighbor texted a screen cap of a group chat, calling Maya a troublemaker with a sob story. Evelyn replied from her own number with a photo of the vendor code and one sentence, We're in the solutions business today. Join us or watch. She muted the thread. Choice Douglas's CFO suggested a settlement budget. Douglas thanked him, then moved the dollars to the hospital's family housing line. We're not buying silence, he said. We're building beds. Choice Maya had 15 minutes and a headache. She could have powered through. Instead, she sat on the back porch bench, closed her eyes, and counted to 5 the way Raphael had prescribed. When she opened them, the wisteria had grown another inch. At 2, she kept her promise and returned to St. Bart's. The stair session was brutal and short. Thanks in advance's knee wobbled like a question. On the last step, they stopped. 1 step counts as 2, the therapist reminded. 3, Maya whispered. It's a mom math thing. Thanks in advance nodded, eyes wet, tongue out in a face of concentration that had powered galaxies. 3, she said, and put her foot down like it was a signature. Maya stayed until the nap took, the little fist unclenching like noon. On the way out, she passed a bulletin board where someone had pinned a poem under staff notes. We break the day into tasks, and the tasks into breaths, and the breaths into names. Say them. Then do the next thing. She took a photo and sent it to the marble mouths. New policy. She typed, poems count. Back home, the process server's envelope had birthed a hearing date. 2 weeks. It would be loud. Remy started a prep doc labeled Boring is Winning and filled it with bullet points that would make a judge drowsy and a house safe. Raphael drafted a motion to compel the agency's blacklist emails. Sunlight, Curry, Evelyn practiced. The Sadie that had once been a wall now sounded like a door the house had agreed to keep open. Between phrases, she called the school to ask for the anti-bias curriculum's reading list. The admin stumbled, said there wasn't one. Evelyn said there would be, and that she would happily fund it without her name on the plaque. Anonymous is elegance, she told Maya. Foundations should remember that. At 4, a neighbor white hair, soft cardigan, the kind of woman who had volunteered in church kitchens for decades and knew how to say useful things, appeared at the back door with a casserole. For your staff, she told George, not whispering. I heard the noise. I brought food. That's how we vote. George took the dish like sacrament. Run for council, he advised. Ran out of knees, she said, and patted his arm. At 5, a kid on a skateboard rolled past the open gate. Raphael had propped it for deliveries and peered at the marble. He looked at Maya, at her uniform, at her skin, and then at the sign that now hung where no one could miss it. Address staff by name. He lifted his chin. What's your name? Maya, she said. Yours. Chris, he said, and shrugged. Cool house. Cool policy, she replied. He smiled and kicked back into the street. Wheels loud. Heart easy. Sometimes the weather turns because you put up a better flag. Dinner was unremarkable, which made it precious. The children argued cheerfully about whether soup counts as a beverage. Douglas rinsed plates like a man who had decided his hands were not a luxury. Evelyn burned exactly 1 grilled cheese and laughed at herself first. After, the 4 of them moved like a team around a modest war room in the library, a whiteboard with 3 columns now. Next. Later, and a stack of sticky notes that smelled like solvent and perseverance. Maya added vendor training quarterly under next. Evelyn wrote hospital performance, keep practicing under now, and a beat later. Call my mother under later. What will you say? Maya asked. The opposite of what she taught me to. Evelyn answered. We'll see if my mouth obeys. The doorbell chimed. Not the gate. The door. News has a way of not knocking. Remy opened it to find a young reporter with a notepad and a look on her face that combined exhaustion and hope. Not a tabloid stringer, the shoes were wrong. City Desk Wednesday. The kind of person who knows how to spell affidavit and refuses to cut mis. I brought dinner, she said, holding up a paper bag that smelled like the only Thai place within 10 miles that could deliver miracles on a Wednesday. I'll eat on the steps if you let me sit in the briefing. On background, on humanity. I'm tired of writing about monsters. She glanced at Maya. I want to write about maintenance. Evelyn looked at Douglas. Douglas looked at Maya. Policy, not impulse. Maya thought of poems on hospital corkboards and kids who ask names. No living rooms, she said. Kitchen island. You get 15 minutes. You spell everybody's name right. You take our boring. The reporter nodded like she had been offered a bowl of soup after a long war. Deal. They ate out of cartons at the island. The receiver of receipts, the queen of press, the compliance paladin, the house's steward, the woman who had slapped awake telling the story the way it should be told, not arc, but scaffolding, not scandal, but screws. What's the headline? Remy asked, because he couldn't help himself. The reporter chewed, swallowed, wrote, then read aloud without ceremony. How a house learned to say please. George clapped once. Front page above the fold. It declared, we don't care about the fold. Maya said, and meant it, we care where the screws go. The reporter smiled in a way that said she'd write it that way anyway. When the house finally exhaled into night, the piano closed, like a book that would be opened again in the morning. The whiteboard held more next than later, which is how you know you're not lying to yourself. The vendor code on the board had acquired a constellation of signatures. The post-it above the coffee maker had acquired 3 exclamation points. Nobody admitted to adding. Maya stepped onto the back porch bench with her phone and the day's last light. She called the hospital at the minute the nurse had said was good. Thanks in advance was sleepy. Crown off. Voice bravely small. Hi, Mommy. Did the house be brave today? It tried, Maya said. People helped. How many steps did we do? 3. Maya answered, which counts as 6. Thanks in advance, laughed, then yawned, then slept. Maya stayed for a while. The wisteria moved like a slow thought. The night held back its cold like a courtesy. Douglas stepped out and stood at the threshold, not crossing the invisible line that made the bench sacred. Tomorrow's the board vote, he said. I know, she replied. Tomorrow's also the stair step. He nodded. Both count. He started to go, then turned back. Thank you for the 1 page. Thank you for the paper I didn't have to sign to be quiet, she said. He left her to the bench and the air and the sentence she had carried all day like a small stone that warmed in the hand. Retaliation is theft. She turned it over, let it cool, and replaced it with the one the house had given back to her. When we finish the hard part, we start the next one. Inside, a light went off. Another stayed on. The building hummed like a clerk with a cart. Orderly, inevitable, a little too bright. It would dim. It would brighten again. It would learn. Maya pressed the pink handkerchief to her palm, not for comfort now, but for scale. She had survived smaller days and larger ones. This one had fed something hunger couldn't touch. She stood, stretched, and went in to set the coffee for morning. Boring is winning, she thought, and smiled like a woman who had finally found the right kind of glory. The morning didn't so much dawn as clear its throat. A rinse of pale light slid over the hedges, the tent poles stacked like folded spines, the brass knocker that had learned restraint. In the kitchen, the coffee machine clicked on preset by Maya, who believed machines should practice courtesy too. On the service board, the household procedure printouts hung like armor. Someone as Sophia, judging by the tiny hearts in the margins, had added a sticky note. Board vote 1000. Hospitale fille nulle. Breathe on the 5s. Next to it, George had drawn a tiny umbrella. Protection. Portable. unapologetics. Maya arrived at 6 with a point list in her head and a calm she hadn't earned but would borrow. She ran the brief names. Hazards. Errands then tagged in Remy and Raphael for a 15-minute war room over toast. The legal hearing was officially calendared for 2 weeks. The agency had filed a motion to seal, a tell that worried Raphael only because it was so unimaginative. They think secrets are oxygen, he said, flipping through printouts. We'll crack a window. Remy swiped through overnight coverage. The city desk piece lands at noon. Headlines good. No mugshots. No adjectives. We'll hate in a week. What's the headline? Sophia asked, pretending she didn't care. And failing, Remy grinned. How a house learned to say please. George applauded once with a dish towel. Polita wins votes, he said. Eventually, Evelyn slipped in at 7. Hairs swept up, blazer that said she'd fired her armor and hired her honesty. She poured coffee, then set the mug down untouched, and leaned on the island like a woman bracing on, not posing. I dreamed the boardroom was tiled in mirrors, she said, half to herself. I could see myself negotiate with myself in every direction. Pick one of you and be kind to her, Maya said. Evelyn exhaled a laugh. I'll try. Agenda, I make the case for boring. Raphael sits in the back with the binder. Remy stays outside with press 1, quote, policy only. Olivia joins by speaker for tone. Douglas, she trailed. I'll speak last, he said, entering with his tie unknotted, sleeves rolled. Last gets to tell the story we keep. Maya looked at him, then at the clock. 10 minutes to child logistics. She said, they'll want reassurance without the flavor of spin. Flavor of spin makes my tongue itch, the girl announced, appearing in the doorway with a backpack and the ministerial bearing of the minister of syrup. The boy trailed, clutching a construction paper program he and Maya had made for the hospital. Mom music. Dad words. Maya front row. Above the title, he'd drawn a tower on a book, a red line between 2 hands. Stop and go. And beneath it, a third hand, open like a stage light. Lift off at 4, the boy said, like it was a launch window. Do board meetings have snacks? Regret, Remy said. Terrible fiber. Evelyn crouched. Today, you'll get a new rule if you feel stormy at school. Tell the teacher you need a pause. Please. She'll know. We wrote a note. The girl nodded. Unfooled. You're afraid. Yes, Evelyn said. And I'm going anyway. Good. The girl replied. Practice. The boardroom looked like a wedding invitation embossed, expensive. A little smug. Evelyn entered with Douglas and didn't reach for his arm. Progress arrives in tiny refusals. 7 directors ringed the lacquered table. Old New York. New money. 1 professor with kind eyes, 1 lawyer with a pen that clicked when he disapproved. The hospital's COO joined by video. Moodle first, watching. Vivian Parr was there too, in a chair against the wall. Legal pad in her lap. A small black bag on the floor that looked like it contained cutlery and contracts. Evelyn stood. No prepared remarks. She let the quiet do work. We built a foundation that forgot its foundation. She began, voice aimed at the table in the past. We funded rooms without improving the rooms we run. Last week my house was a theater. We've rewritten the script. You've all received our household procedure policy. Today I'm asking for 2 votes. 1 to adopt the policy as a condition for all foundation-hosted events, and 1 to approve a public commitment to anti-retaliation for household staff, ours, and our peers. We will not be the family that looks away. Click. The lawyer's pen. Mrs. Reeves. Noble. Also litigious. Good policy is cheaper than bad press. Olivia's voice chimed in from the speaker, and kinder than both. The professor with kind eyes leaned forward. I read your PDF. It's practical. Boring. Remy whispered from the hallway, where he was not whispering into his phone to Tamsin. Which is the new brave? Vivian folded her hands. You'll alienate donors. You're asking wealthy families to change how their houses run. It's intrusive. Douglas took the floor. He did not say as a donor. He said, as a husband. He did not look at Evelyn for permission. He looked at her for courage, and found it. We're not telling people how to live, he said. We're telling them to treat workers like people in the rooms where cameras don't go. If they can't, they don't get our logo. And if they walk, click. Then we keep the money that would have laundered their behavior, he said. And we sleep, the COO unmuted. At the hospital, we adopted a two-person escalation rule after a hallway incident ended badly. Our staff injuries dropped 40%. Famille complain les. It cost us clipboards and humility. Clipboards and humility. Evelyn repeated, that's the budget. Vivian tried again, shifting to flattery shaped like a handcuff. Mrs. Reeves, philanthropy is stagecraft. If you insist on showing your scaffolding, you'll lose the illusion. I don't want illusion, Evelyn said. I want maintenance. The professor smiled. God bless a woman who knows the difference. Votes don't always take long. Motion. Second. Hands. It passed 5-2. The lawyer clicked fast, like rain on a car roof. The professor wrote in a tidy hand. The COO smiled with her eyes. Second motion. Tighter. Money twitched. Arms wavered. Vivian's jaw set. Adopt, the professor said, or our name leaves your letterhead. That did it. 4-3. Barely. Enough. Evelyn let the breath out slowly. The way the therapist had taught the kids during storms, the pen stopped clicking. Olivia texted a string of confetti, and then press at noon. Boring tone. We are a policy shop now. Vivian stood, calm and sharp. You've made an enemy you didn't need, she said. No, Evelyn replied. We've made a policy you did. Vivian lifted the small black bag. See you in court, she said to Douglas, and to Maya by proxy, and to an era that didn't know it was ending. Douglas didn't flinch. Bring your emails, he said. Remy, in the hallway, texted Raphael a single peach emoji code for their mad, not dangerous, and then a link to a Google Doc titled Boring Wins Day of Line. Evelyn sat. Her hands shook. She did not hide them. Clipboards and humility, she said again, as if trying on a new language. By noon, the city desk piece was live. It did not pander. It quoted the procedure policy, not the slap. It included George's line, be kind faster, and Maya's retaliation is theft. There was a photo of the laminated code on the kitchen pegboard. Signatures in a constellation. The caption didn't name brands. It named the board vote. Browsers were refreshed. Slack hearts lifted. At the house, deliveries hummed. Maya ran now next later like a field commander with better bedside manner. Now children to school. Now Evelyn eats. Now Douglas drinks water. Next cars at 315. Now always. No one meets alone with anyone who wants to argue. In the back hall, the microaggressions warmed up. A neighbor peered in. All pearls and climate control. You look so professional, she told Maya, voice bright as bleach. It must be so nice to work for a family like this. They're good people. We're trying to be, Maya said. It's a job. The neighbor blinked. Oh, of course. I didn't mean. I know, Maya said, and smiled like a bouncer. Kitchen's that way if you brought food. She hadn't. She left. Olivia's phone didn't stop vibrating. 3 producers. 1 glossy magazine. A podcast that loved the sound of its own empathy. She declined 2, penciled 1, told them to spell Maya's name right, and to keep the hospital out of the gossip. The story is the screw, she kept saying, not the chandelier. At 1:30, Maya took 10 minutes for the bench. And the handkerchief, she texted her sister. Board vote passed. Boring one. See you at 4. A heart came back. Then a tiny video. A crown, slightly repaired, slightly cocked, a grin under it like sunrise. The hospital lobby at 3:40 was a mix of fluorescent and hope. A small folding stage had been set in a corner no more than 6 inches off the ground, because the children's wing believed in performance only to the extent it helped people stand. A cluster of nurses in scrubs, a handful of parents with faces organized for public, 2 residents arguing in a whisper about the fastest way to make a stretch of hallway feel like a river. Evelyn stood backstage with sheet music and a new posture, not armor, not apology, something like weathered. Her hands shook once. She bent over the keys before anyone could clap. Thank you for letting me try in front of you, she said to the room with no microphone. I'll stop when my hands do. If they don't, I'll keep going. And then Sadie, not clean. True. She faltered at the place. She always faltered. And, for the first time in public, didn't kit. The room breathed. Nurses stopped walking without looking like they'd stopped working. A toddler clapped wrong and made it better. Douglas went next. A handful of sentences about family housing and rails in showers and doors that don't slam. Practical. Boring. The COO nodded like she was checking boxes in her head and finding them blessed. Maya stood in the front row as promised. She held her hands still and didn't try to captain the room. She let the room captain itself. She watched thanks in advance at the back with a physical therapist, eyes wide, fingers wrapped around the paper program like a raft. Between pieces, a reporter for the hospital newsletter ponytail. Notebook, good shoes. Asked for quotes. Evelyn gave her one about practice. Douglas gave her one about clipboards. A nurse gave her one about the vending machines that needed better snacks. The reporter wrote it all like gospel. At 4:20, a parent in a denim jacket slipped close to Maya, eyes unsure. You're the kitchen one, she asked, embarrassed by her own imprecision. I am, Maya said. My son's been here 8 months. The woman said, nobody ever says please to us. Today, the man with the name badge asked me if he could step past my stroller. He said, please, and looked at me like I could say no. I forgot people could say no. Say it as often as you need, Maya replied. We'll practice hearing it. The woman nodded and cried without apology. A nurse passed a box of tissues like a baton. On the far side of the room, Vivian appeared in the doorway, a legal pad tucked under her arm like a trophy. She assessed the crowd, the plastic chairs, the lack of donors, and smiled like a person who sees leverage everywhere. She raised her phone to film. Raphael materialized between her and the scene, compliance badge out like a very polite sword. Public space. Vivian purred. I can film. HIPAA adjacent. Raphael said, you can film the policy board, not the families. I'm a guest, she said. He gestured to a sign, no filming without consent. The arrow underneath pointed at his badge. Consent lives here, he said. You want a quote? Here's one we're boring. Vivian dropped the phone halfway. Enough to be disdainful, not enough to concede. You're very proud of your new humility, she said. Raphael smiled like a man who had eaten breakfast. We practiced. Vivian did not push. She didn't have to. Her presence was the push. But the room didn't belong to her. Not anymore. The piano started again. Sadie turned into something that sounded like breath. Thanks in advance tugged at Maya's sleeve. Can we count now? She whispered. Count what? Between the notes. We can, Maya said. 8. If you want, 8 is lucky. Thanks in advance decided, and started to whisper numbers. while the music held back at the house at 6. The vote had started to ripple through the geography of people who eat dinners in rooms with branches in their names. 2 donors withdrew. 3 doubled down. 1 anonymously. The neighbor with the casserole brought another. The city desk story kept its headline and its spine. A gossip column took an off-ramp into fever and was ignored. The agency sent an email at 6:12 p.m. demanding a retraction of the vendor code as it applies to clients. Olivia replied with a 3-line masterpiece. "We do not contract our conscience. The code stands, see you in hearings. Kindly, O.R." At 7, the family sat around the kitchen island, because some days need the furniture that has learned to be honest and ate takeout out of boxes. So the dishes wouldn't become a metaphor. The kids told stories about recess politics. George instituted a rule that anyone who used the word optics had to put $1 in a jar for the staff holiday fund. Remy put in 5 for future sin. Evelyn's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, winced, and turned it face down. "My mother," she said, and looked at Maya. "Now or later?" Maya asked. "Later," Evelyn decided, then surprised herself by adding, "and honestly, add it to the board," Douglas said, nodding at "now next later." Evelyn stood, wrote "call mom no theater" under later, then sat and laughed at herself. And then didn't apologize. The doorbell chimed again. Not the gate, the door. This time it was the professor from the board, hair damp from the mist, a paper bag in hand. "I brought pie," she said, lifting it like a treaty, for the people who did the actual work. George accepted it with a bow that would have embarrassed Versailles. "Professor, we have a jar for optics. You are exempt." "Mercy," she said, and put $2 in anyway. They ate pie that tasted like butter had told the truth. Small plates, real forks, no speech. At 8:30, Maya stepped out to the bench with her phone in the dark. The wisteria moved in the mild breeze like somebody practicing scales with leaves. She called the hospital. "Thanks in advance," answered on the second ring, sleep thick around the words. "Mommy, did the people vote yes?" "They did," Maya said. "Did the music stop in the hard place?" "It kept going," Maya answered. "Good. Thanks in advance," murmured. "That's what we do." "Yes," Maya said. "That's what we do." She stayed after the call, thinking of the morning's vote and the afternoon's sati, and the way both had felt like the same muscle, used differently. Clipboards and humility. She thought, boring is winning. Then she laughed because it was true, and because she had never known how badly she wanted a day like this. Douglas's shadow crossed the flagstones. He stopped at the threshold of the porch the way a decent man does when a bench is a sanctuary. "Raphael says Vivian blinked first," he reported. The AG asked for their blacklist emails. "Council says popcorn." Maya smiled. "We stock it by the first aid kit. Comfort and bandages." He looked out over the lawn, at the tent poles, waiting to be carted away, at the gate that had learned to keep out only what deserved to stay out. "Tomorrow, we change locks," he said. "Schedules too. We'll do a staff raise in the morning." "Don't tell me," she said. "Tell them." "I plan to," he said. At the island, he started to go, then turned. "Thank you for holding the room I keep wanting to run from." "Thank you," she replied, "for running better when you stay." He nodded and left her with the bench and the wisteria and the sentence she had earned. "We didn't win because we shouted. We won because we wrote it down and did it." Inside, someone started the dishwasher, its dignified hum like a baritone sax. Upstairs, the piano kept practicing a single passage, stubborn and human. On the service board, Breathe On the Fives had acquired 3 underlines and a smiley shield. Maya pressed the pink handkerchief to her palm. The sting from the slap was a memory now, not a religion. Her hand remembered something new. How to hold a policy, how to hold a child at the top of a staircase, how to hold a house to its better self. She stood, stretched, and went in to set the coffee. Tomorrow would demand boring again. Tomorrow would deserve it. The morning after the vote arrived with the hush of a theater curtain lifting on a set already built, no scrambling, no panics, just a house that had learned to set the coffee the night before. In the kitchen, the island was a conference table again, no centerpiece, just mugs, a clipboard, and a plate of imperfect waffles reheated to a kindness that didn't need steam to be warm. On the service board, a fresh heading in black marker, Implementation Day. Under it, a list as plain as prayer. New locks installed 900 AM. Staff raises announced 930 AM. Island. Vendor code briefing 1000 AM. All crew. Press window 1115 AM. Driveway only. Court notice. Pickup noon. Raphael. School pickup 300 PM. Umbrella Incar. Hospital visit 530 PM. Two passes. Maya stood with her pen at a slant, updating timestamps like a conductor marking cues. She'd slept 5 hours and felt taller, like somebody had lengthened the hallway inside her. George rolled in a cart, burdened with a bakery box and a tool kit. Donuts for morale, he said, tapping the box. Hex keys for metaphors, he added, tapping the kit. We're changing what doors do. Clipboards and humility, Maya answered. Add coffee, he said, and it's a sacrament. By 8:30 the house was awake and oriented. The children skidded through like euphoric weather, backpacks thumping, faces serious in the way of kids who had decided practice was a noun they could own. The boy planted himself at the board and added a line in crayon. Breathe on the fives, then drew a small, steady tower on a book at the corner like a signature. The girl stuck a neon arrow next to vendor code and wrote, "No yelling aloud," in looping script. Evelyn entered without perfume, hair in a practical knot, blazer swapped for a cardigan that had surrendered every war. It didn't need to fight. She said good morning to the room, the way people say grace. It landed. Douglas followed. Tie loosely knotted, good enough symmetry, jaw set in a way that meant decisions, not defense. He took his spot standing at the island and looked at the faces around it. Sophia, Remy, Raphael, 2 gardeners in damp boots, the driver, the tutor who had learned to conference with terror and art supplies, the night porter who never asked for thanks. Just clean shifts. House, not staff. Before we run the plan, he said, we fix the math. He reached into an envelope and slid out a short stack of letters with the logo nobody loved anymore. Olivia had made him swap it for the house's picture, a line drawing of the front door. Open. Raises. He said simply, effective now, not charity, correction, and retroactive hazard pay for gala week. We missed it when we should have seen you. We see you. A beat? No one clapped. It wasn't that kind of announcement. George put a hand flat on the island, like you do when the world tilts a little in a good direction. Sophia exhaled and looked at the ceiling. Across the cart, Remy whispered, optics jar, and slid $1 in with a grin that made the jar part of a liturgy. Maya didn't reach for her envelope. She watched faces open by degrees, different weather systems clearing in real time, and felt the floor under all of them thicken like reinforced concrete. Next, Douglas said, new locks, not to keep people out, to keep promises in. The locksmiths arrived like a pit crew, quiet, clean, done in under 40 minutes. When they finished, Maya took a breath. She hadn't known she'd been rationing. The old keys clinked in a metal bowl, suddenly heavy with a decade of the wrong stories. George labeled the new sets with a strip of tape and his tiny ritual handwriting: kitchen, back hall, linen, library, order for auction. At 10, crews gathered in the driveway for the vendor briefing. Olivia spoke first, 2 minutes. All policy, no adjectives. She passed to Maya, who didn't need a microphone. She had a nurse's voice, calm, audible, never cheap. We're adopting a 2-person escalation model, Maya said, holding up a laminated 1-pager. When emotion spikes, call for a second. No one gets cornered. No one gets punished for asking for help. The code is on the back. 4 languages. Sign it if you want the check. A landscaper in a faded cap said, and if we have an issue with a supervisor, use my number. Maya answered, it's on the sheet. If I fail you, use Olivia's. If we both fail you, use Raphael's. If he fails you, tell Remy and prepare for headlines. A ripple of laughter, relief in the music, consent in ink. Pen clicked. The board filled with signatures. The air changed shape. At 11:15, press arrived on schedule. The driveway held them like a velvet rope you couldn't see. No one went inside. No one filmed children. Boring wins, Olivia said at the lip of the gravel, and ran the script vote. Policy, pilot at 2 partner homes. Hospital thanks, no gossip, no ask, no sources say. A reporter tried for the slap. Olivia said, we don't lead with pain, and gestured to the laminated policy, like a shield that also happened to be paper. When the last mic dropped, Remy texted Tamsin, we survived the driveway. Headline will be a noun. At noon, Raphael left for the courthouse, came back with a tidy folder that said more than history had dared. The state wanted those blacklist emails. Vivian's firm had objected in a tone that sounded like wealth apologizing to itself. A hearing date was set. Bring popcorn, Raphael said, and put a handful of caramel corn from the jar into his pocket like a talisman. The day built its own spine. School pickup at 3 brought wet sneakers and 2 triumphs, a resolved recess conflict, and a math worksheet that had learned to love 8s. The minister of syrup held court on an actual court driveway chalk, explaining to the boy how to negotiate possessions without raising your voice. Pause, please, she said, like a tiny judge. By 5, they were on their way to the hospital, Douglas driving, Evelyn with a shoebox in her lap, sheet music and extra bobby pins. Maya in the back seat between 2 backpacks, counting not thunder now, but the spaces between. The city unspooled brick, true spring green, a billboard advertising a luxury tower that had never had to widen its base. The lobby had learned them, and the learning felt mutual. Nurses waved with the kind of familiarity that forgives nerves. The receptionist handed over 2 passes without commentary, the new locks of a different house. Thanks in advance waited at the far end of the hall wearing a paper crown upgraded with glitter dots. A small IV taped to her hand like a kite string. Mommy, she whispered, the kind of whisper kids think is quiet because it is loving. We voted yes again. We did, Maya said, and the music didn't stop. The concert was smaller than the day before and better for it. Evelyn didn't announce or apologize. She sat and gave Sadie an extra measure to breathe. It breathed. Douglas spoke 3 sentences, a thank you, an update on the dormitory build-out, a line about doors that don't slam. The COO put a checkmark in the air and looked relieved to be counting practicals instead of sins. When it ended, the clapping felt like people putting their hands together not in worship but in work. A nurse pulled Maya aside and said, "Your policy, we're stealing it." Maya shrugged. "Steal faster." Vivian did not come. Her absence was its own presence, a negative space around which the day arranged itself. Raphael's messages arrived in pulses: AG discovery in progress. Judge unimpressed with sealed motions. Counsel smirking. Bring Pia. The system wasn't fixed. It was in process. That counted. They left the hospital at sunset, the sky pink, like the world's quietest siren. In the car, the kids argued about which dinosaur would have loved Sadie. They settled surprisingly on Stegosaurus, armored but fond of leaves, and Maya texted her sister a photo crown. Smile. Program. Piano bench. Tawa Hulz. The reply came quick, a heart and a sun. Back at the house, the island resumed its duties, tacos. Because nobody loses a fight with tacos. Pico de gallo in a bowl. Guilt checked at the door. They ate standing until somebody decided chairs were a good idea. Evelyn wiped the stove without dramatic. Douglas loaded the dishwasher like a man who didn't think he was changing the world by doing dishes, and was anyway. When the plates were stacked and the counters shone with a modesty learned in a hard school, Douglas cleared his throat at the island. "One more item," he said. It wasn't a speech. He came to the line that mattered and stood on it. "Maya, will you take the role officially? Household coordinator. Written authority. Budget line. If you say no, I'll ask again tomorrow. If you say yes, I'll sleep better tonight." Maya looked down at her hands, the small scar near her thumb, the ghost of a crescent that had faded into the geography of who she was, the strength that felt like a light you could set a cup on. "Yes," she said, "but we write it down." "We write it down," he said. "Clipboards and humility," George murmured, pretending to wipe an already clean spot. The kids cheered like someone had approved recess. Evelyn smiled the new kind and reached for a pen. She didn't sign a permission slip. She signed a policy. Olivia countersigned. Douglas initialed. Raphael witnessed. Remy wrote the date and drew a microscopic tower at the bottom corner, because sometimes lawyers love symbols. 2. After bedtime, after teeth and stories, and the inevitable conversation about how many marshmallows make cocoa an actual drink, Maya took the bench for herself. The wisteria was in bloom now, a little audacious, a lot deserved. The night didn't pretend to be quiet. It was full of honest house sounds. The dishwasher's patient baritone, a pipe clicking once like an old man's knee, the solemn tick of a clock that had stopped measuring judgment and returned to time. Footsteps approached and paused at the threshold. Douglas, jacket off, sleeves rolled, the whole day on his face and something lighter under it. "I signed something today I didn't know how to sign," he said. It felt like getting out of a car I'd been trying to drive from the trunk. "You looked like a driver," she said, from the right seat. He nodded. A touch of embarrassment, a lot of gratitude. "Raphael says discovery could take months. Vivian will spit teeth before she surrenders a blacklist. We'll need stamina." "We have it," Maya said. "It's boring." "Boring is a superpower," he said, and actually smiled. He glanced at her hand. "How's the memory?" "Not a religion," she said. "Good," he answered, and left her to the bench and the sky. A while later, the door eased open again. Evelyn this time, cardigan sleeves pushed to her elbows, hair escaping in a way she would have once called unprofessional, and now knew was an adjective that belonged to coats, not women. "I called my mother," she said, settling without waiting for permission. Progress. "No theater." "How'd it go?" "She tried," Evelyn said. "Equal parts, pain and pride." "So did I. We hung up before we got mean." "We'll practice." Maya tipped her head. Start where you can keep going. Evelyn looked toward the kitchen window, where a new paper household charter hung in a plastic sleeve near the fire extinguisher. Names under it. A date. A promise. I didn't know I was hungry for rules that made me gentler, she said. Turns out we all were. They sat in companionable quiet, somewhere upstairs. A page turned, a child rolled and settled. In the music room, the piano sent a single exploratory chord into the hall, and then, with an almost shy confidence, found the next one. Tomorrow, Evelyn said. Half a question. Tomorrow, Maya answered. A fact. When the house finally slept, Maya wrote a letter at the tiny desk in her room sunshine. Today we learned another way to count. Not between thunder and thunder, between vote and policy, between apology and practice, between door and door, we picked the one that opens. She slid the paper into the notebook and tucked the notebook under the handkerchief the way her mother had taught her to hide saints. On the service board, in the kitchen, Implementation Day had a line through it, a good line, the kind that means completed, underneath, in a different hand. Sophia's heart's in the margins. Someone had written tomorrow's header, maintenance, the romance of a clean floor, the miracle of a signed schedule, the dignity of knowing where the keys go. At dawn, the front door will open. It will open because they chose it, because clipboards and humility held, because a woman in a cardigan sat at a piano and didn't stop at the hard part, because a man put down a paperweight and lifted a policy, because an old butler believed in donuts and hex keys, because two children practiced pause, please, like a spell that worked, because a mother counted to 8 with a girl in a crown and a tower on a book, because Maya Williams decided what her hands were for and wrote it down. At its heart, this story reminds us that dignity is not a favor granted by the powerful. It's a birthright. We practice one small boundary at a time. Real change rarely arrives with trumpets. It begins when ordinary people name what is harmful, refuse to play along, and replace silence with clear, kind rules for living. Maya shows that courage isn't loud or flawless. It's the steady choice to say what you mean without being mean, to document the truth, to ask for witnesses, and to keep going when the room gets cold. For adults and elders who've seen a lifetime of closed doors, the lesson is deeply practical. You can draw your line, invite others to honor it, and still lead with grace. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Accountability and compassion can sit at the same table, and no is a complete sentence. The story also widens our lens on fairness. Bias and old pecking orders don't vanish because we wish them away. They're unlearned by procedures, by allies who walk the talk, and by communities that choose boring integrity over flashy denial. Steel is tempered by fire when we face injustice without becoming unjust. We find our true weight. We teach people how to treat us and ourselves every day. If this resonated, I'd love to hear from you. What small boundary or honest conversation are you ready to start this week? Have you lived a moment where naming the truth changed the air in the room? Share your story in the comments. Tap like if the message mattered, and subscribe to catch more reflective, high-stakes stories that linger after the credits. May your evening be quiet, your spirit unhurried, and your home, whatever its shape, a place where truth can breathe and hope can take root.